Hello, everyone. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 8th of August, 2025. I'm CareyHolzman, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Synology 1825 Plus 8-bay network attached storage, or NAS, device. And was going to go somewhere else with that, but it's a lot more than just storage. And if you're familiar with network attached storage devices, this is the latest and greatest from Synology, which, look, a lot of controversy about Synology and their drive restrictions. It's an easy workaround. It's not a big deal. However, today, we were lucky enough that our friends over at Synology sent us everything we need to unbox this and get it going without any workarounds. So we've got a couple of NVMe drives that they have branded here specifically for the use of 24/7 hardcore business use. So they're very, very robust. They also sent us the 10 gigabit upgrade network card, which is different from the other 10 gig upgrades that go into the smaller Synology NASs. I've never seen one of these before. So we'll go through the upgrade process. And they were also kind enough to send us four 4 terabyte Synology branded drives. So in a perfect world, we can plug all of these Synology branded devices into the Synology device and have a very smooth and reliable experience. Well, that's what they say. We're going to try it live today. I've never used a NAS more than 4 bays. Well, more than 5 bays. 5 is becoming the new 4. My goal at the end of all of this will be to deploy this and replace the trying to think of the name of the unit now. The previous unit we've got. So far, we've looked at the 925, which is the 4 bay, the 1525, which is the one we're using now, which is the 5 bay, and now we're going to the 8 bay 1825. So the 25, the last 2 digits of the Synology model number will indicate what year it was released. So if you have an older Synology 918, that was released in 2018. Et cetera, et cetera. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm super, super happy that Synology believes in us, and they believe in their product, that they have no problem with us doing this live. A lot of companies, they want to give us conditions before they'll send us anything, where they want to see and approve the video before we're allowed to show it to you. And we don't play that way. We just go buy the product if they want to be like that. So it means a lot to me, and I think it says a lot about a company if they're bold enough to say, you review it to your standard, however you do it. We stand behind our product that you're going to have a good experience. We're so confident, go ahead and do it live. Think about that. So one of the ways they ensure that we're going to have a good experience, and I want you to see it from their side, is that we use their products. So if we use their products as intended, we should have the most smooth experience and the longest term reliability without issues. Should, okay? When it comes to any workarounds, you're on your own. So just bear that in mind, and that's true for most NASs on the market. There's an intended way to deploy it, and then there's an off-label use, if you want to say, where it's like, yeah, you could do that. So today we're going to focus on the unboxing and the setup using, a best case scenario, all Synology. And in fact, I've never even put an NVMe drive in a NAS before. I put them in, but I don't really use them because most of the files that I'm storing on my NAS are these giant YouTube videos. And where these little caching drives help is typically with smaller files, Word documents, Excel documents, PDF files, maybe even some photos. They'll make the network or your network access to the NAS appear to be faster. With that being said, I'm not sure if we can expand the array with these, but we'll find out when we plug them in, and we'll go through that and figure it out together. So let's move everything aside. And before we get started, hello. Let me say hello to everybody joining us in our chat with a shout out to our friend Buster, who sends an Amazon gift card just prior to the show starting to support us here. Thank you, Buster, as always. Gregory H. sends a $5 super chat just prior to the show starting, saying hello to everybody in the chat. Welcome in, Gregory. I see Mark Baggett, Dustin Fuller, and Hyper Jones saying hello. There's Eddie Casanova and Mark Gaines joining us, saying hello. Patrick T, Luke Greenia, Michael Lavelle, Scott, David Graham, Viper 30, all saying hello. Luke Greenia says to Mark, so Luke Greenia and Mark Gaines have the same system that they custom built together, and Mark Gaines changed his cooler from the Trikes 360 over to the Corsair iCUE because of all the cabling and fan controller nightmare. And Luke Greenia says to Mark Gaines, looks like he's going to be doing the same thing. He says, oh, Luke Greenia doesn't have the Trikes 360. I'm reading his message. He says the iCUE Link Titan 360 RX LCD, and the reason he is going to replace, I guess he's got a Leon Lee cooler, and he says Leon Lee has abandoned me, it seems. Zero response to emails since Monday. Oh, that's not good. We'll follow up with this, Luke. We'd be curious how that works out. Our friend Buster says, hello from Bonnie, Scotland, or the temperature in Edinburgh today, 61 degrees Fahrenheit or 16.1 degrees Celsius. We have not had a day under 110 degrees in August. So I hope you enjoy that much nicer weather, Buster. Wish we could be there and have much better company than we have in Phoenix too. The dream of 61-degree weather. It's only 6 months away, Carey. It's only 6 months away. All right, let's see. Tony Aindow joins us and says hello. Welcome back, Tony. There's Andy W6AD joining us. I also see Doman 2000. Of course, Mara hanging out in the chat room with everyone. Bruins 44. Mick Woods. Phil Stodd, Nova Scotia. Computer Doctor says hello. They must be in Canada. Our viewers join us from all over the world. Brazil and England and Scotland and Ireland and Northern Ireland and Wales and Brazil and Australia and New Zealand, Canada, and every once in a while, somebody from Phoenix, which is really bizarre how rare that is. Obviously, I'm in Phoenix, which is why I mentioned that. I have more people joining me from my home state of Michigan in Detroit than I do from people where I live now in Phoenix. It's just weird. Eugene Ildago says hello, and so does Dazzle 555, and Zach Bischoff, and Pete Davis. All right, welcome in everybody. If you're watching the video, half of this video is engaging in our live interaction. You're not going to find this on television, and you're not going to find it from most other YouTube channels, and even those that do don't often interact with the audience like we do. So welcome in, and converse with one another, converse with me. It's all welcome. We just don't be a jerk, just be nice, and we'd love to have you in there. Brian Madonna joins us. He says the NAS is as big as that computer. Well, this NAS will hold a lot more hard drives than that little computer. The little computer here is what we built to use as our streamer. This is what we're streaming from right now. That's why all the fans are on. This computer is bringing you today's video. This computer had a wrong cable included from Thermaltake, and I did update part 4 of the video notes for this build if you're wondering what that part number for that cable is. I've had some people reach out in email with some concern about, what if I get the wrong cable? Well, you just tell RMA, and then they'll send you one. You're just not going to be able to hook it up for about a week or two until you get a response from RMA, which took me a week, and then wait for the mail to arrive, which was another week. But what I did is I included the part number and part description as it came from Thermaltake, so you can specifically ask for it by name. You don't have to describe it. And they know what it is, and they know why you're asking. So you shouldn't have any anxiety or concern about that. It's not a big deal. Unless you're in a hurry, in which case you're not going to be happy. All right, with that, let's see. Matthew Burden says hello, and Sean's Computer Repair joining us. Let's see, Sean's Computer Repair. Oh, wait, Matthew Burden renews membership, now member for 38 months. Right on. Thank you, Matthew. He says, good afternoon, Carey, Mara, and everyone in chat. Long time no see. I was very excited to catch a live video. Nice. Well, we're glad to have you here. Thank you for continuing to support us. It's good to have you back here again. Gary Tatum says hello. And Sean's Computer Repair has reached 6 months of membership. Right on. Thank you, Sean. The Mac Geek says hello. I don't know anybody watching Mac or using Mac would watch. We're a Windows channel and a computer hardware channel, but everybody's always welcome. Not sure what they're going to get out of it, but yeah, just in case you don't know, we are a Windows only channel and computer hardware. Jose Lopez with a $1 super chat. Thank you, Jose. Okay, so Synology DiskStation. This is the 1825, or specifically the DS DiskStation 1825 Plus. And if we take a look over at Synology's website to see how they're promoting this, let's take a look at what's in this box, what we're expecting to be working with today. So over here on the first link, which is in our video notes below today's video, we see the DiskStation 1825. Now, all the software and everything works the same across the entire line of Synology product. So if it's an 1825, a 925, a 1525, they all run the same software, so there's no learning curve upgrading from one model to another, even if it's rack-mounted or desktop. It's very, very easy to move from one to another. And this one, you'll see we've got 8 bays here. You don't have to use all 8 bays. So for example, today Synology has sent us 4 drives, so we're going to use any 4 of these. They don't have to be in order. I will put them in order because, my OCD. But you can put them anywhere. Doesn't matter. And then any of the bays that are left empty, you can always expand your array and make it bigger in the future whenever you're ready, 1 drive at a time. Super easy. And, Synology is really the leader of the pack with network attached storage right now in 2025. And that's the way it's been for some time. Now, the whole hard drive compatibility thing aside, it's still the leader. And we're still waiting, honestly, for a competitor to come up and really be a considerable replacement for Synology. And there's plenty of competitors out there, but in my opinion, they all fall short in one way or another, usually in their operating system. So the Synology is not perfect, but right now, in my opinion, for what's available, it's as close to perfect as we've got. With that being said, this is my NAS of choice. I use Synology's myself, and I just think they're far superior, and I don't think the drive compatibility is as big of a deal as the fear mongers are making it out to be. But we're going to talk more about that later. Since we're using all Synology branded product, we're not going to have any drive compatibility issues to begin with. And by the way, if we weren't using Synology branded product, we wouldn't have any drive compatibility issues either, because we're not helpless children. It's pretty easy to work around it. Anyway, so let's see. It says fast out of the box. It's got 25 gig network support. That's not built in, but it's upgradable too. It features built-in 2.5 gig networking with both SATA SSD and H hard drives in 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch internal bays. That's pretty standard. 2 NVMe drives via 2 M.2 slots to use as a cache. So apparently it's just a cache only, and does not appear that you can expand your RAID with it, which is typically what NVMe drives do. But this is subject to change as the DSM, the disk management, the DiskStation management software continues to evolve. Its support for expansion cards allows configuration flexibility, supporting faster networking up to 25 gigs. So don't confuse 2.5 gigs here with 25 gigs here. These are 2 very different numbers. So it's supporting at 2.5 gigs up to 2239 megabits per second. No, megabytes per second on the read and write, and 1573. So let me I'm gonna do that all over again. 2239 megabytes, capital B is bytes, per second on the read, It won't let me just highlight read. Read is 2239. The write is 1573 megabytes per second. And you do have a little number 3, so there's a little fine print down below at the bottom that will explain what the little number 4 and the little number 3, what all that means. So it does currently support adding the DX525. You can actually buy, let's say 8 drives is still not enough storage for you. You can buy the DX525, which does not work as a standalone NAS. It's an expansion unit to be plugged into another Synology NAS that gives you 5 more bays, and you can add up to 2 of those for a total of 18 drives, which they're calculating at 360 terabyte. But I would argue with the 30 terabyte drives out now, let's see, 10 times 30 would be 300. So it'd be 600 minus 120. You'd be at 480 terabytes total. Just that Synology doesn't offer a branded 30 terabyte drive, so that may be why this limit is much lower here. But needless to say, I mean, how much storage do you need to have? Holy cow. So as I mentioned, you could put as many as 1 drive in here or as many as 8, whatever you want to do. And then if that's not enough, you can buy this expansion unit. You can add 1 drive in there or fill up to 5, whatever you want to do. And when you run out of that one, you can buy another one. And you can fill that one with up to 5 drives. The drives do not all have to be the same size, but that will affect your overall storage capacity. And if we scroll down, you know, this has cloud access. You can be your own Dropbox. You can be your own OneDrive. You can be your own Google Drive. You can do it safely and securely. Well, we don't use those features. Most people do. You can synchronize 2 of these together. So let's say you have an office in Phoenix and an office in San Diego, let's just say. And you need both offices to be able to access a centralized server. So you might fall back on something like Microsoft Azure. You might fall back on even Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive if your company's not that big, but you have satellite offices. Or you could put one of these in one office and one of these in another office and configure them to synchronize to each other automatically. So when somebody in Phoenix makes a change, they see the change in San Diego or anywhere else in the world, provided you have the bandwidth, right? You have a fast enough internet connection at both locations, and that you're not creating data faster than you can send it, which some of my customers do. But these are meant to be left on 24/7. So even if you were to really add a bunch of data over at branch A, let's say Phoenix, when you shut down for the day, these still continue synchronizing while the office is closed. They're still at work. So even if you did add a bunch of data that was way more than your internet can handle quickly, by the time you come in the morning the next day, likely the other side will have already long since updated. But usually most people are saving and copying reasonably sized files, and they transfer almost instantaneously. So there you go. It's called Drive Share Sync, and it's part of Synology's software, their DSM software. On top of that, they've got data backup. So if you want to back up your computers, your smartphones, even your cloud apps, you can do all that with built-in software that Synology includes. If you've got cameras and security systems, the Synology can be your DVR or your NVR, as the case may be, to record what's going on. And it's got over 8,700 IP cameras that it works with remote monitoring and playback. And scalable video management provides all the tools you need for live monitoring, investigation management, and backup. And again, we see these little numbers here that indicate little details. You can also send the recordings to the cloud. So if you want to be able to, let's say somebody breaks into your building and they steal your NAS, and your NAS has all your video files on it that shows you who broke in. By having those video files uploaded to the cloud, they ain't getting those. So at least you can have some video evidence of how many people were involved, perhaps what they look like, maybe what car they were driving, precisely what day and time it happened, all of that stuff. which would help the police better be able to catch the culprits. But if you're not doing the cloud side of it and they steal everything and you weren't watching it live or finding another way to record it, yeah, that's sort of the downside. It's not there's a whole complete package here, and if you don't fulfill the complete package, well, then you leave in little gaps, which could or could not come back to haunt you. Now, there are things called containers that you can run on this, such as Docker containers and virtual machines. So if you want to do testing, whether you're developing software or security tests, virtual DSM acts as a dedicated test environment, ensuring isolation between application systems and data. This is very critical. Centralized monitoring and management with their central management system and active insight. These are all pieces of the Synology operating system that come at no additional cost. All of this is included, and I think except for the camera licenses, not quite sure how the camera licenses work, but it's very affordable for that. So they talk about their Synology drives, which we can talk about that more another day. But for right now, if you buy the Synology drives, Synology is telling you that this is going to give you the best overall experience with the most reliability over time. Now, HP will say the same thing about their ink or paper. Is there truth to it? We'll have to wait and see. But we're going to put this to the test and see if it's true, because they did send us their drives. They also make a router. So if you want to go full Synology, you can make sure you have a Synology router with the Synology NAS, and everything works really well together and is designed to work well together, but it's not required. Let's see, they have an extra warranty. You can get an additional 2 years of your standard 3-year warranty. And again, we have little citations here we need to look at. So we talk about storage efficiency, how much you could scale it, cyber storage and data resilience, hybrid IT operations, and it scores very highly. And I agree. I mean, I'm agreeing with this. I use it myself. I deploy these to my customers, and I don't get support calls all the time. It's pretty rare, pretty rare. So these are all the notes or the citations 1 through 10. So you might want to read through those for the details of their statements above. Okay, now how much is it? We look over at Amazon. To get this empty, just the way we've got it, without any of the drives, we're looking at $1,223. Now that's an 8-bay NAS. Now you consider how much a 4-bay NAS is. They're around $500 from Synology anyway, $500 or $600. And we're getting twice as much, and it's about twice the price. It kind of adds up and makes sense. The processor in this is also a lot more heavier duty than the smaller NASs, the less expensive NASs. And let's see, what else can I tell you about it? It's metal and plastic. Yeah, the case is metal and the front bezel is plastic. We see these low reviews. They're likely people that want to use their own drives and they're not aware of how easy the workaround is. Or they might be just opposed to having to feel that it's required, even though it's a free workaround that takes 2 seconds to apply. Typically, customers don't do their own research, and if it doesn't work out of the box like they used to, they don't like change. So for me, Synology is so good at what they do, I'm willing to say, look, this isn't a big deal, because I know. If I didn't know the workaround, then I'd probably be as upset as the rest of everyone else by being, having my hand forced. But that being said, yeah, see, they're all going to say the same thing here. That being said, if you use the Synology drives, then those reviews don't apply to you. And if you don't want to use the Synology drives, a quick Google search will show you very easily how to get around it. It's so simple and it's so fast for everybody to make such a big deal. The time it took them to write the review, they could have already bypassed it. But I don't want to make this video about that. We'll follow through and we'll talk about, in fact, we already have in the past. So if you've missed that content, you can go back and watch it. Today, though, because Synology was so kind to send this to us. And Synology really does believe that if you buy their drives and their equipment, you will have the best out-of-box experience, along with the easiest setup and the longest maintenance-free operation. And are they right? Is it true? Well, we have to put it together and we have to deploy it and see what it's going to do. And that's what we're doing today. Are you with me? You see where I'm coming from? Let's try well, first of all, there's nobody else who makes the network card. I think this is all you get. And then with regards to the NVMe drives, so long as we're using their NVMe drives, we don't have any issues there. And those are for caching. I've never used NVMe drives for caching. I've set them up. I've shown you guys how to do it, but I've never actually used them. When this is all said and done, we're going to be deploying this here in Studio C, and we're going to make sure that, we have to eat our own dog food. And if this thing goes down, if this thing has any issues, it disrupts my entire business. And I'm going to make sure that I run it through every test I have before I recommend anything to a customer. But I can tell you, DSM from Synology is the same on the 1825 as it was on the 24, the 23, the 22. It's the same. It's the same operating system. So I already know what to expect. What I don't know is, with regards to the Synology drives themselves, I'm not worried about the network card, I'm sure it's fine. But when it comes to the NVMe drives and the hard drives, are they actually more reliable? How would we know unless we really test them over a long period of time, and then compare them with other Synology units using other brands of drives and see which one fails first? So we won't know those answers probably for years, but maybe not. Maybe we'll know the answer in an hour. We're going to find out today because we're live, unrehearsed, no scripts, and everything you see is happening in real time with 0 edits. Let me take a quick look in the chat before we get our unboxing underway. Gilman 2000 says people don't want to do workarounds. I don't think they're aware of the workaround. They're not aware of it. It's like somebody says, I don't like Microsoft Copilot. I want to get rid of it. Now, does anybody know how I can fix this problem? Did you try asking Copilot? No, I got rid of it because it's useless. Well, maybe if you didn't get rid of Copilot, you could have asked Copilot before you asked us. And Copilot in the first go-round would have likely given you the answer you were looking for, but you wouldn't even give it a chance because you're so closed-minded about it. The first thing you want to do when you see it is remove it. It's just people fighting to remain ignorant. They're just defending their own ignorance. And it's sad and amusing at the same time. Like, do you hear yourself? You're asking somebody how to fix something when you just took this piece out of your computer that comes with every Windows 11 computer. You just removed it because you don't like it. But the reason you don't like it is because you don't understand how to use it. And now that you've removed it, a good chance for you to learn how to use it is no longer available to you. So this is the world we're dealing with today. And I mean, this is coming from experts. These are experts. And they are so blind that Copilot's coming for their jobs. They don't understand it because they're closed-minded to it. And when they lose their job because Copilot is replaced what they do, I hope they have another plan in place. So, in any event, let's see. Just looking in the chat before we begin. The Greenie said, I just let Copilot exist. I'm telling you, man, if you have any problem in your life, a leaky faucet, a car's making noise, a hinge is squeaking, you don't know how to do something, I want to make my printer scan to a network folder, what brand of printer, what make, what model, how do you do it? Copilot will tell you. At least try it. There's no advertising like a Google search. There's no going through the first few results till you find the one you're looking for. It's just boom, it's like talking to a human being. And it's not perfect, okay? But a lot of times for me, it gets me just enough. If it's not a complete solution, which sometimes it is, it's about a 2/3 or 1/3 solution. And once I have that piece, then I know exactly what I need to search for more precisely to get the little details filled in. Or if I could be bothered, I would follow up with Copilot and tell it where it's wrong, and it will often come back with alternatives. So I'm still not embraced Copilot 100%, but the people that won't even use it, you don't know what you're missing. Ignorance is bliss. Actually, I think in this case, ignorance is misery, because you're suffering when an answer has been right in front of you if you could be bothered to go get it. So this is the world we're living in, man. I don't know what to do. Copilot's got to replace all tech support. If you do any tech support for a living, you can kiss that goodbye. Somebody goes, how can I fix this problem? Well, did you try using Copilot? I don't like Copilot. I don't use it. I uninstall it from all of my systems. Well, here, hold on a second. And then you type the person's question into your Copilot and read back what Copilot says. And they're like, wow, how did you know that? I just typed your question in Copilot. Just verbosely read it right to you. Do you need somebody to read you stories, or you just refuse to do that on your own? So if you can start embracing that now, when your customers call with questions that you don't know the answers to, before you say, I don't know, or before you say, let me Google that, simply hit Copilot, put your customer's question into Copilot, and more times than not, in my experience, you get the answer. Customer has a really bizarre situation. I've never heard of it before. I go right to Copilot while we're on the phone. I don't necessarily tell the customer I'm going to Copilot. How do I fix da-da-da-da-da? Do-do-do-do-do. Doesn't even matter. Some piece of software I never heard of. Copilot knows about it. Probably a good chance. Some make and model of printer I've never heard of. They want to scan to a network folder. How do we do that? Hold on a second. It's like incredible. It doesn't always have the answers, but it's a great and worthy place to at least look at and evaluate it before you say it's not worth my time. It kind of stings, because when I was growing up, people didn't think I was capable of things either, and people wouldn't give me a chance. So I'm sort of vibing with Copilot, and poor little Copilot. Yeah, it's still got some evolving to do, but geez, to shut it down before you've even given it a chance, oh man, it brings back some childhood memories. They're not pleasant. All right, let's see, a couple contributions just came in. Craig Casabona with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Craig. Phil Stott said, I'd love to see Copilot try to install a mast on a forklift. Well, be careful what you ask for, because Amazon now has warehouses that are fully robotic and there's no humans in them. So they do make custom machines, and it's not that much of a step further to throw, drone technology with AI. If you combine Tesla's ability to self-drive, or Waymo, or any of those others, and you combine robotics and you combine AI, these jobs could theoretically, it's a ways away, but it's very doable. So you say that, but it's closer than you think, especially if it's going to save companies money. Oh, and no workman's comp either, Peter VZ joining us from the Netherlands with a €1 super chat. Thank you, Peter. Peter Laycock said, I heard that Jim Lavelle has died at age 97. Rest in peace. Who's Jim Lavelle? Zvi Minor says Synology does not manufacture its own hard drives. This is true. Synology buys drives from Toshiba and Seagate, and what Synology is doing is they're modifying the firmware on the drive, and they're not real clear about what that modification is. That apparently is more than just branding. So until we can get a drive and dismantle the firmware on it and then compare it to Toshiba and Seagate, I honestly don't know whose drive it is other than Synology's. Does it matter? The fact is that Synology is saying that those drives, the way that manufacturers make them, need refinement to increase reliability on their NAS units. And that Synology is modifying drives that can qualify for that modification, uniquely designed for ultimate reliability on their NAS devices. But the details of that is kind of secret. It's not kind of secret. They're not disclosing precisely what they're looking for and what they're changing, but we do know they're changing something. Beyond that, it would require forensics far beyond my abilities or my time. And it would be no different in any event. It changes nothing to have that information. So if you want to spend that time and that effort in dismantling and reverse engineering the firmware and compare the two and see what they're doing, I'd encourage you to do that and report back to me what you found. But I have no interest in that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. But it may be just an interesting experiment just to see what's going on. Now, Synology says they're going to increase the number of compatible drives as they verify more and more drives, but they still haven't done it yet. And it doesn't matter because you don't have to wait for them if you just run the script. It takes 2 seconds, copy and paste, run the script, you're done. Versus trying to dismantle and reverse engineer the drives to see what's being changed or to do the research to figure out what's being verified. I got work to do. I don't have time to play like that. So if that were to be done, I'd have to be paid to do that. So I don't see that as a practical, useful bit of information one way or the other personally. But I wouldn't stop you from doing it. If you're that curious, have at it and let us know what you find. William Denton says hello. Jack Kugelmis joins us from Toronto, and there's Essential Working Too Hard saying hello. William Denton. Scott says hello. Oh, Jim Lavelle was from Apollo 13. Oh, gotcha. Andy says you got to be smart enough to use it. No, you don't. If we're talking about the patch, the drive workaround, you don't have to be smart at all. You just have to be a monkey, copy what you see on the screen onto your screen, and you're done. No thinking is required whatsoever. You have to get off your butt and do it, which requires moving your arms and your hands and your fingers, which apparently is too much effort for some people. That's fine. They can lay there like Jabba the Hutt. But gosh, it's frustrating that you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make that horse drink that water. And this is society, right? So we put the information out there. It is profoundly frustrating to watch people cause their own harm and live in their own misery when they can lift themselves out, and yet they choose not to because they think it's impossible or not worth the effort. Well, then lay there in misery. You know what I mean? Like, I've done my part. So regardless of that, it usually, again, comes from a lack of anybody trying. What we see a lot on the internet today is we see a lot of people forecasting doom who've never gotten off their butt and actually tried to do anything. So they say, well, why should I bother trying when it's only going to end up with this? Or why should I, geez, if I have to reformat my computer and reinstall Windows, I have to put all the programs back on it. And they'll whine and complain about that for days when actually doing it takes maybe 2-3 hours and it's done. It's really no big deal. And they're always glad that they did it, but they have so much anxiety. How am I going to do it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. It's not rocket science. You just put the stuff back on. I don't know where it is. Well, you found it before. I have a feeling you'll find it again. Have you bothered looking? It's insane. It's like dealing with children. Mom, there's no milk in the refrigerator. Well, did you look in the back? Yeah. You're sitting on the couch. Yeah. Well, when did you look? A while ago? Well, go look now. Well, could you get it for me? Because I don't see it. Okay, that's manipulation. That's just people getting you to work for them for free because they're too lazy to get off their butts. I am not encouraging or endorsing or condoning that bad attitude. But I assure you, if you actually try things, you'll probably succeed a lot more often than you think. And if you have any issues, like with computers or anything, we're here to help you, but we can't help you with problems that exist in your mind. We're not psychologists. We cannot dispense pills. You actually have to do something. And when you succeed, it's very, very rewarding. It's self-empowering, and it then gives you the encouragement to help others. And then you'll be in my position going, hey, I'm not doing this for you for free, but if you want it, I'll tell you how to do it. You get off your butt and do it. And if you don't, then just sit there. I don't care. But this, I'm seeing more and more and more of this. And people are free to behave that way. I'm not telling them not to. And I don't want to be around them. That's it. I've given them the information the same as I give anybody else. If they need more than that, they can pay me to do it for them, or they can go without, or they can do it themselves. That's it. Anyway, ask me how I really feel about that. I get so disgusted when people that are able-bodied can't be bothered to get off their butt. And so many people that are stuck in wheelchairs that wish they could trade places with that lazy person. And man, I would so do that on my own if I could. And there's somebody who can't be bothered. Whew. The world's a messed up place. Anyway, let's keep talking. When I get requests for help and I try and help people and then they refuse the help, why did you ask? That's the whole point, and that's why I kind of go off on it. It's like, if you didn't, if you wanted me to do it for you, you should have hired me. If you wanted the help, here's the help. Then you're not going to take the help. Well, then you just wasted both of our times, and it's frustrating to watch people just kind of sit and claim that they're suffering when only they can lift themselves out or pay somebody to lift them out, and they don't want to do either one. So there's so much of this on the internet right now. I'm letting you know so that I hope you can recognize it when you see it and that you don't add to that bad attitude. You can if you want to. I just think that's not a goal to to reach, not in my life. All right. Andy says, I don't want to talk to my computer. I'm afraid of what it might say. You should talk to it because you might just be really impressed with what it has to say. It might be very nice and complimentary. This is why you got to try things. All right, let's see. Let me grab my box cutter and we're going to get the unboxing here. Frank Jimmy said he's waiting for the aliens to get here in November. Is that when they're scheduled to arrive? Maybe they're bringing Elvis back to Earth. Yeah, well, let's not get far-fetched. Okay. Unboxing the Synology DiskStation 1825. Here we go. Oh, I guess I don't need my knife. Just open this up right here. Okay. We've got a box. We get over here. Right here. We've got a box right here. That has our Ethernet cables and a power cable in this box. So we're definitely going to need that here in a minute. I'll just set it here since I'm running out of desk space. They've given you a QR code. It says start here. Everybody wants you to go through apps on your phone. I prefer to do it the old school way. So you don't have to do that. If you're a first timer, it'll ease you through the process. Remaining in the box, you've got some styrofoam here. Here we go. Right, like so. And looks like this. And likely what's under this will be the big power brick. So just the NAS itself and the power brick, I think, are all that's left in the box. Now, getting these out of the box can sometimes be a little tricky. And one way that we typically open up big computers is we don't try and pull them out of the box. We let gravity work for us instead of us working against gravity. So I put the styrofoam back in, and we'll just flip the box upside down. And I need to bend this cardboard back without knocking everything down. I would normally do this on the floor, not on a desk. So I don't normally have to worry about knocking over things onto the floor. I want to do that very carefully. Anyway, we'll just flip that over. Just like so. And then lift the box up. I'm telling you, this is way easier, and especially if you're not on a confined desk like I am trying to show you this while I'm doing it, it's not making it any easier. And then you can see we've got everything out of the box now. So, let me set the box down here and get it out of the way. Now we can take the styrofoam off. And you know, I'm not seeing a power brick, so I'm wondering, does this thing have a built-in power supply? Never seen a Synology with a built-in power supply before. I feel all the drive trays opening up. This little piece of tape was getting stuck on the way up. Solve that problem. Yeah, this Synology has a built-in power supply. How cool is that? If we come around here, I'll just leave it vertical like this for a minute. Come around the back, let's see if we can go to camera 2. Look at this, built-in power supply. So a standard PC power cable is what's going to power this. There's our 2 fans, our 2 2.5 gig network ports. A couple of USBs for the, if you wanted to do the expansions. The expansion bays that were 5 bays each. I guess they plug into the drives. I think you can also plug external storage on there. What else do we have? Right back here, this is a card slot. So apparently this comes out and you have a PCI slot that I guess this can slot into, and then that upgrades us to 10 gig, this card here. Now somewhere in here you can add NVMe drives. Sometimes that's on the bottom. Yep. So my guess is, and again I haven't done any research on this, but my guess is we're going to take this cover off, and underneath this cover is likely RAM and storage, maybe, for upgrades. There's one way to know for sure. Let's check it out. Little tiny screw right there. Put it right where you can see it, right there. All right, let's see what's hiding underneath this little flap. It's a little metal door, 2 screws, and it lifts out. So this is RAM upgrade only. Right there you can see SODIMM memory, and we're using 1 memory module for now, and we can upgrade that to 2 memory modules. And there's also, if we bring it around to the front, there's our 8 bays. You'll also see another USB right up here in the front. We've got status light, an alert light, a LAN 1 and a LAN 2 light, and then it looks like there's lights, maybe? No, I don't see lights down here. These are just your slot numbers 1 through 8. So if it tells you drive 8 is failed, you know to go to the number 8. So if there's other LEDs, we'll have to wait and plug it in and see what that looks like. Where do the NVMe drives go? Now you notice I'm not pulling up any directions. I like to see how intuitive these devices are. And I think, as I look at this, we have to take the cover off to put the add-in card. I would be surprised if we have to take the cover off to get to the NVMe storage, but that just may be what we have to do, because I don't see any other access to it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put this bottom plate back on, since there's nothing we're going to upgrade in here. And I'm going to look for, just kind of looking for an easy way to get in here and see what's inside. Now, when it comes to documentation these days, you don't often get a manual. Often you might get a quick start guide. I'm just curious where these fans are. Looks like this comes out really easily. And I wonder if the reason these come out really easily is to get access inside of there for other access to things, or is it just to replace the fans if they ever go out? Looks like we have two 140 millimeter fans back here. And it looks like there's 2 screws here and 2 screws here. I'm curious, let's just see what's lying behind. If it's just the fans or if there's anything else back there hidden. 2, 3, 4. I mean, that looks like super easy access. I'm just curious, why would they make that so easy? Yep, I'm going to say that's easy, all right. But if we turn the case this way, you'll see there's really nothing user serviceable. I guess that's just for ease, quick replacement of the fans if need be. Okay, good to know. Now I know. Put that back on. I think I've had to replace 1 fan on a NAS in 15 years. So I don't know. Look, I'm all for easy access, right? Quick and easy. But it doesn't look like getting to this card slot or getting to the NVMe slots is quick or easy. This looks more like a traditional disassembly of like a PC case to get inside of a computer. NASs usually have access panels so that you don't have to fully open them. So this is a bit unusual, but I've also never worked with a NAS of this size before. So take one with the other here. What is this down here? I have a rubber foot here that's covering something. There's a hole. I think that may be a diagnostic port. There's 6 little pins in there. And this may be for factory use, you know, if it were to go back for repair. That's pretty interesting. It says something on it. Let's see what it says. It says console. Yeah, so that's going to be an administrative console, probably a diagnostic port. So we know we're not likely going to need to get anything away from the front because that's going to cover, basically there's no space around this to add anything other than drives, from what I gather from looking at it. Likely the drives have to go in one side or the other, and it looks like the only way to have access to one side or the other is to remove the entire top panel, which we can do. Ooh, let's go like this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. It looks like that's all we have to take out. Okay, not too painful so far. And I would imagine this just pulls back and away. Here we go. Very good. You can see the Synology is a vent. The word Synology is ventilation, which if you hold it in the right light, you can see right through there. Oh, maybe only on one side. Yeah, it's vented here on this side, but here on this side, the ventilation's covered. So I guess they want to direct the airflow one way. And then you do have these alignment notches right here on the case cover so that you seat it in there correctly when you put it back together. It's always nice to have some confirmation that we've aligned it properly without fighting it. Now in the Synology, what's hidden looks like on this side is our power supply. So we want to steer clear of that, especially don't open this when it's plugged in. And yeah, power supply cables are going down that way. Over on this side, we have access to that slot to do the upgrade. That would then go to this back cover that we would remove like any other PCI slot cover if we want to install the card, which I do not want to do yet. I am still trying to figure out where the NVMe drives go. I'm probably working harder than I need to here, but I don't see where they go. I also wouldn't think I'd have to dig this deep to begin with to find them, but you know, just to give you the full 360 here with the cover off, we'll take advantage of that. Well, we've got it apart. If I look down inside of here, I don't think there's anywhere in here. Nope. Ooh, I really like these. These drive trays are smooth. They have a nice positive click. And they slide out without any grittiness or frustration, no friction. Nice and easy. And a nice, simple, sometimes you have to really push on some other NAS manufacturers to get that thing in there. These just slide in like butter and then a very soft click, just like a cabinet door. There's little things like that that you're going to find from one manufacturer to another that helps define quality, really. Okay. So somewhere in here, we are going to put the NAS, or sorry, the NVMe caching drives. And I don't know where they go. That is not obvious. So I wish it were obvious. I expect it to be. But you know what? That's what I get for having expectations. So what I'm going to have to do is look at some documentation here, because I don't want to completely disassemble this. It can't be this difficult, can it? It's got to be me. Paul Vircher with $4.99 in Super Chat. Thank you, Paul. John Paul Bacon says the M2 standard has two different types of drives, SATA and NVMe. Yeah. There's 3 slots in the M.2 standard. One is SATA, one is NVMe, and one is a slot that supports both SATA and NVMe. You talking about this? Billy Man says, manual says, very back of the first 2 drive trays. Really? Well, we got 3 different people in the chat telling me how to get inside of this 3 different ways. So what I'm going to do is figure out who's right, or at least who's explained it better, because I don't know who to believe. So we're just going to go right to Synology. So I'm going to just go back to, let's see, Synology. This is an 1825, and I'll type in the word manual, and I'll just use Google for that. And if I share my screen with you, you'll see my Google results. We'll just go through this together, not a big deal. DS1825 product manual, that's what I want. Download the PDF, yes. I'm curious though, if we scroll down, does it tell us? It says we should have got some keys, and yeah, I think that's in the other box. Scroll, scroll, scroll. I'm looking for pictures. There's the power supply that's fully modular. That's good to see. 250 watts. I like that. It's also not a separate power brick. It's built into the unit. Thank you for doing that, Synology. Oh, the fans, they say they're 120s. They look like 140s to me, but they say they're 120s here. So 120 millimeter fans. There's your drive tray. Hardware components installation. Inserting the drives. Yeah, we know how to do that. It's pretty simple. Taking out the fan. Oh, this takes off the cover. And this takes out the expansion slot cover. And then that's how we would put in the network card upgrade. Very good. This is upgrading the memory. We already figured that out. Yeah. Where's the last thing they're listing is the one thing we're looking for. Here it is. Add an M.2 NVMe. Thank you. To install. Shut it down. They're located on the left side. I guess the left side if you're looking straight on at it. Remove the 2 covers protecting the modules. There's covers. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I figured I didn't have to take the whole thing apart like that. But it's not obvious, but maybe they did that on purpose. So let's go back over to camera 1. And so they want they're showing it with all the drive trays removed. So these drive trays don't matter what slot they're in, so you don't have to take them out in any particular order. Even if they have drives in them, it doesn't matter. I just need to figure out where I'm going to set a big old stack of these. I guess if they fall off the table, they're not going to hurt anything. I'll do what I can to prevent them from falling. You probably don't need to take all these out, but I want to just open it up so you guys can see. Give you the best view possible. Okay, so here's the inside. And it's telling us there are covers somewhere. Oh, I see them. I see them. They go vertical. They go up and down. Right here. There's one. There's the other one. They're side by side, up and down. Right in there. Hopefully the camera, you can see that. Okay. And so for me to get a screwdriver in there, you do really need to remove all of the drive trays to get a, well, let's just see if it takes a screw. Maybe I'm assuming, maybe there's a clip or something. What holds those in? Oh, it is a clip. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be a tough thing to show on camera. Let's see if I can bring it up to the camera. Let's go back over to camera 1. I knew this box was going to come back to haunt me. It's in my way. Let me move this out of my way. Bear with me for a second here, guys. Messing with the big dogs today. Get this way out of my way so that won't get in our way anymore. And then let's grab this and let's do a close-up of it. Okay. So, inside of it, you'll see these 2 slots right here. Those are your NVMe slots, and they have clips that lock the NVMe drive in place. So you just slide it in, close it, and you're locked in. So you don't need to take this cover off except to put the network card upgrade in, which is again just 6 screws on the back. And there's a close-up of the back. And our power supply, fully modular. So if your power supply dies, it's not that big of a deal to change it out. And you're not dealing with those wall warts, especially on something that's going to draw this much power. That's all there is. I mean, it's pretty much pretty lightweight, maybe 15, 17 pounds. So let's take a look at what they sent us. We've got an enterprise solid state drive, the SNV3410 400G. Let me see if we can pull that up on Amazon. I don't know anything about these other than they're NVMe drives. And they're enterprise grade, meaning heavy duty, heavy use. Let's see. The official Synology page shows us features and specs, automatic firmware updates, flash caching, data protection, data integrity, especially during unexpected shutdowns. They have what looks like power loss protection with a capacitor that prevents the, if it loses power, it can still power itself for a few seconds to gently shut it down rather than spiking it with power losses. That's what'll kill a device. Effortless firmware. Synology DSM keeps your drives automatically updated. There's no need for separate maintenance. I like that, so it's another advantage, let's say, to using Synology branded drives, at least on the NVMe side. And they also sent us the, is that the one they sent us, the E10M? No, we have an E10G18, which is not one of the, oh, these are, okay, we can use the slot, instead of upgrading the network to 10G, we can use the slot on the Synology to add more NVMe storage. So this one is both a 10 gig upgrade and adds 2 more NVMe slots. It does both. This one is just adding 2 M.2 slots up to 110 millimeters in length. So that makes sense why it's listed under the SSD cache setup. And our network card, if we come back over here and look at our video notes, our network card is right here. No, these are the drives. Synology sent us 4 of their 4 terabyte drives with all their specs. And again, let me go back to my video notes. We should have the, yeah, here's the network card here. So that's what they sent us for 10 gigabit internet upgrade. But do know that you can use that slot for other things. And there's a 5-year warranty on this network card, which, I've never really seen a network card ever go bad. Pretty rare. So I think that's a pretty safe warranty. You don't need, they could have made that warranty 10 years probably. But regardless, it certainly shows confidence in the product. So then my next question is, how much are these NVMe drives? So if we take a look here under Amazon, These drives are $140 each for what capacity? 400 gigs? Yeah, so 400 gigs. Now, when you're using a caching drive, because it's already solid state, it doesn't have to be that fast, and therefore it doesn't have to, use a heat sink, and it generates a lot of heat if it's really fast. Your network is going to be your bottleneck, honestly. So, and since this is a cache drive and not a storage drive, 400 gigs is a lot of cache. And then if we're going to put two of them, because, Synology sent us two, that's going to give us 800. But if we wanted 800 to begin with, we could have started with 800. And we could do two 800s for 1.6 gigs of cache. That would be an awful lot of cache. You'd have to have millions of files for that to make sense. But we've got the 3410. We also see they have a 3510. Now the 3510 is that longer 110 millimeter. See, it's the same capacity, but it says 22-110. That means it's 22 millimeters wide, 110 millimeters long. And it's usually the bigger drives, in my experience, that have power loss protection. So that's what I'm confused about here, is why is this longer if it's the same capacity? I don't know. And people like it, but I wonder if it depends on the NAS model of Synology, because they make these for various Synology NASs. This NAS doesn't look like it would take a 110 millimeter. Even if we tried, it wouldn't fit inside. On the other hand, the opposite could be true on other NAS models from Synology where the 110 drive will not fit. So it may just be the design of the NAS. I'm not sure. But you can see $270 on the 800 gig versus a little bit more than half price on the 400 gig. And yeah, this is 110 millimeters, or sorry, this is 80 millimeters long, so 2280. That means it's 22 millimeters wide, 80 millimeters long. And if we look inside of the NAS, when we look at the drive bays, the NVMe drive bays in here, you can see they're right here. The 110 millimeter isn't, it would poke out of the top. So I'm guessing that they must make a NAS, Synology must make one where the opposite is true, where it only takes a 110 and you cannot fit an 80. Although, just between you and I, they do sell little adapters that extend the length from an 80 to a 110. I'm just saying. Not Synology, but I mean in general, you can find them, like on Amazon, little extension units. Think of it as a prosthetic to make it fit. But anyway, let's get the drives installed. Let's take a look at what's in the box here. And let's get the screwdriver out of my way. And let's go to the close-up camera. Now this side has a big old piece of tape on it. This side has a little tiny piece of tape. So guess which side I'm going into. Hey, look at this. There's no paperwork. All you get is this. So apparently you're supposed to know what to do with it. That's fine. There's no extra screws or anything like you might get from a normal NVMe drive you'd be buying for your home computer. Not that that wouldn't work, but this is really high endurance and designed specifically for use in NAS. So depending on how you use your NAS, this may not be an option for you unless you like constantly replacing NVMe drives. But again, that would require some testing to verify. So to plug this in, it should be as easy as, let's see if I can, I don't know if I can do this in a way where you guys can watch and I can see at the same time, but The little notch cut out means that the label faces towards the inside of the case. I'm going to start on the inside notch, or the inside slot first. Just kind of wiggle it and push it in there. And you should see it's kind of standing up right there. And when I push it back, it should just lock in. And there's one installed, and we'll do the same thing on the other one. I mean, that's pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. Can totally deal with that. I like that there's no screw in there. And if I need to take it out, you just push the plastic lever back, lift it out. Super easy. And I didn't need to take this whole cover off, but I do to put the network card upgrade in, which I'm not going to do yet. So we'll just leave the cover off for now, because we're not. What I want to do is I want to put the drives in, fire it up for the first time, make sure everything works, get the DSM installed, get the cache and the drives configured into arrays. Once all that works, we'll shut it down and unplug it. We can put the 10 gig network card in and then start it back up again. I don't want to do everything at once, because if something doesn't work, I don't know, is it one of the drives? Is it the storage? You know, is it a hard drive, NVMe drive? Maybe I didn't seat them all the way. Maybe the network card isn't seated all the way. Maybe something's bad, even though that very rarely happens. It's still possible. So I'm going to try and do this in steps and build on that foundation. So if things do not go as expected, the diagnostic will be much faster. Right? That's the way I work. Slow and steady is going to win the race more consistently than trying to rush through it and hope for the best. At least that's the way I see it. You'll notice there's little cutouts. Those cutouts are there so you can get a finger in there and pull the drive out. So while the access is a little strange, it's not difficult. It's an unusual location, but unusual doesn't make it bad. I wouldn't have expected to look in there. That's a new one for me. So let's go back over to camera 2. We'll take a look and see. Label again faces towards the inside of the case. Align the cutout in the NVMe drive with the notch in the socket. Push down and make sure it's fully seated with my thumb here. And then I just push it back and it locks in. That's done. Easy peasy. Now, when it comes to installing our drives, Synology sent us the HAT3300 branded 4 terabyte drives. Now, if there's any component that's fragile on a modern day computer or a NAS, it's your mechanical drives. And these used to be able to just pull them apart, but these days, you really need a pair of scissors. Okay. So here's our drive. Specifically designed for 24/7 operation in a heavy use case scenario, such as a corporate office where multiple employees are accessing this and you know, just beating the hell out of it all day long. Probably a bit overkill for a home user, to be honest. Now the drive trays, I love Synology's drive trays. These little pieces slide out. I've seen other manufacturers where I have to get a screwdriver to pry these free. These, so just a staple of Synology. So easy. No screws, no tools are required. Just put the drive in, make sure the connector faces outwards away from the latch. Make sure the holes line up in the bracket. And there's a little lip on this, and the lip goes towards the outside. So I usually start with the lip first and then just push it on. And you'll typically hear it click and it'll be completely smooth. So if we do that again on the close-up camera, we make sure that the drive holes are aligned up. The the edge of the little bracket here goes right into that corner like so, towards the end of the drive. And then you should be able to just push it right in. When that's done, all you have to do is take the drive, slide it into whichever bay you want. We're going to start here on drive bay 1. Push it in as far as it'll go, and then just gently lock it in. And we got to repeat that 3 more times. Now, to use this NAS, you only need 1 drive. But if you want to take advantage of RAID 5 and data redundancies, you definitely want 2 drives for RAID 1 and 3 drives or more for RAID 5. You could go RAID 6 on this if you wanted to lose 2 drives, like let's say you had all 8 drives filled, and you were willing to sacrifice the storage capacity of 2 of those drives for data redundancy, so you could suffer 2 drive failures and the NAS would still be working 100%, everybody could still use it. I don't know what the odds of that happening are, but the more drives you have in a NAS, the more likely you could have 2 at the same time fail. So if this were a 30 or 40 drive NAS, then you'd probably want to go to RAID 50 or RAID 60. And you do lose a lot of capacity when you do that, but you're also adding a lot of redundancy because you've got so much more likelihood of a failure that having just 1 drive's worth of redundancy might be walking a bit of a tightrope unless you've got really good backups. And if you do have good backups, I can't imagine how long those take to make if you've got that much storage. So anyway, food for thought. Now, if every NAS manufacturer could just make their drive trays this easy to remove, not require any screws, unless you want to put a 2.5-inch drive in here. There's 4 screws on the bottom of the tray, and there's 4 screws on the bottom of a 2.5-inch drive. So that 2.5-inch drive kind of sits and only takes up about 1/3 of the space here. So there's no way for it to lock in except to use screws. They do include those screws, and those will go into the bottom and hold the drive in that way. Now that's pretty universally true of all NAS manufacturer drive trays. I also appreciate the drive tray is not made of metal. The bottom of this drive has a circuit board, and you don't want that circuit board touching any metal. We've seen other NAS manufacturers make the bottom of the drive tray out of metal, like, hey, look how much better ours is. That's worse, and they often include some kind of an insulator, like a piece of paper, to ensure that the metal won't hit the back of your drive. It's not a good design, in my opinion, from the other manufacturers. I think that, when it comes to the drive trays and how smoothly and easily they go in, how easy it is to put your drives in, how smoothly the tray itself fits into the slot, how smooth the little latch is, the little clip to lock it in. It's the smoothest of any NAS yet on the market that I've worked with. Now, there are some that are easy. Don't get me wrong. They're not necessarily swinging from difficult to easy. This is the simplest, most refined method on the market, in my experience. So it brings me joy and pleasure anytime I have to work on one of these. And the thing is, I very rarely have to work on them. Usually when I deploy a Synology NAS to a client, unless we have run out of space and we need to upgrade the storage, I don't have to work on them. I don't think I've ever had one fail. So knock on wood. All right, 2 more to go. Now, we could turn this on and fire it up with 2 drives, but we're going to put this together based on what Synology has sent us and have the experience Synology wants us to have. Or at least verify we're going to have the experience. All right. So again, the lip on the end of this connector goes towards the outside. I put that lip in first, and then it just kind of sits in the track. And the little pegs line up with the holes, and that locks the drive in. No tools are necessary. It is just almost like we've done this before. I'm a nerd when I get excited over just how easy those go in. Man, I've had to fight with these sometimes. You have to try and slide them in 3 or 4 times before they find the slot. I'm doing this backwards and they're sliding, and that's how easy they are. And I've never worked on this model before. I really like these upgraded drive trays. These are really nice. You think? And here's the thing. No matter how long this takes me, once this is deployed, I'm basically logging in and checking maintenance logs, making sure updates are in place, recycle bins are being emptied. I'm very rarely having to go back to the location where this is to do any physical work to repair it. We have to replace them from time to time. Sometimes a client might have a 2-drive NAS because they didn't have much budget. That's what we put in. Now they've outgrown it. We want to go to 4-drive NAS. As long as we stay in the Synology family, we can move the drives out and plug them into the new NAS. It'll automatically recognize it's coming from an older Synology, and Synology's operating system will migrate it. When the migration's done, with all the extra bays we have in the new NAS, we can start expanding their storage 1 drive at a time while the unit is on and in use. And then depending on how big the drives are and how much data they have, when it's done, we can then do the next one and fill up all the bays, and it's a pretty painless upgrade process for a customer. As for replacing a NAS because it's failed, it's never happened. Our friend Mitch did have one where the power supply went out, and we just went on Amazon and bought a new power supply. That's the worst we've seen on Synology NASs. So again, just finding that slot, and I'm working backwards. I can't see. You guys have a better view than me. I'm working backwards, and it still slides in real easy. Make sure it goes all the way to the back so you get a good connection, and then just close that lever. We'll leave the rest of these empty, right? I'll just leave them here. And I'm going to grab a power cable and a network cable, and we're going to just plug it in and turn it on as is. Because the rest of this, the reason I'm not putting the cover on is I don't want to put the 10 gig network card in yet, and I don't want to put the cover on just to take it right back off to do this. So we'll just leave it off for now. But obviously we want to steer clear of it while it's running. We don't want to injure ourselves. So let me grab my power cable. Right, like so. It's just a standard PC power cable. And we'll plug it right in here. Now what's interesting is it looks like on the back, it looks like there's some kind of a locking mechanism that prevents that from falling out. Am I imagining things, or is it maybe in this box? Oh, these are the keys. These are the screws. If you want to optionally screw the drives in, you can. And that's our power cable. So it looks like, based on this design here, if you look closely, it looks like there's something designed to go around this and lock it in. But what that is, or if it's available, I don't know. But it's not, it's an optional thing, clearly, because we don't need to have it. Interesting. Okay, let's bring this back around. Oh, our 2 networking ports. I need to plug into either one of these 2 networking ports. Doesn't matter which one we use. Now with SMB3 multi-channel, we could use them both simultaneously, and there's no other configuration required on the switch. There's no special switch, and there's no configuration on the PCs. They just work. It just doubles your bandwidth for free. But just to get this up and running, let's hit the power button. Yeah, here we go. And we're going to let that run here for a moment. And I'm going to go back over to camera 1. And everything we do from this point forward is going to be through our web browser. So we have to find this on our network for the very first time. Because as this boots up and initializes, it's got to install the operating system. It's got to download the Synology operating system and place it on one of these drives. Or, yeah, it's going to place it on 1 or 2 of the drives automatically. So how do we see it? Well, if I open up my browser, and we'll turn on the window capture here so you can see what I'm doing. One of the first things I try and do, and I'm not sure if this works on a new Synology, but I would just type find.synology.com. Now it's likely going to find our 1525. I just heard the NAS beep, so it's waiting on something. So there's our 1525 that's up and running here in Studio C. And so far, let's see if we can refresh this. There's the refresh right there. Yeah, it finds it right here, Synology NAS. This is the IP that's been assigned, and it says it's not been installed yet. That's correct. These drives are completely blank. If I double click on that, I get to the end user license agreement that I have to agree to and hit next. Now we are logged into this NAS. Set up your Synology DS1825 now. So I don't have to use the app. I don't have to use a phone. I'm just in my browser. Hit install. Automatically download and install DSM722, 72806. Now, if this video, as this video ages, this may be different for you. That's all we need to do is hit next. Now, it's telling us whatever you've got on these drives, you're going to erase everything on them. This is a standard boilerplate sort of a statement. It doesn't matter if the drives are brand new and have nothing on them. It's always going to warn you anytime you're going to lose everything, even if there's nothing to lose. So, of course, we want to continue. Please type your product number. So you see how it says DS1825 Plus? That's our product number. DS is not the product number, it's capital. So if you want this to work, you need to type it exactly. This is a very serious, you're going to erase your data. We're not going to say you're close enough. You've got to type it precisely as they show it so that you have full intention, right? And then delete. All right. So what it's doing now is it's prepping these drives for use specifically for this NAS. And in order to do that, it has to put on certain partitions and formats. This is all based on Linux. So it's not like you're going to take a Windows drive out and be able to see the Windows files on it. It will erase it and have it conform to what it needs. And to make it conform, it's got to erase what's on it. Pretty standard practice. Now, installing the DiskStation Manager software doesn't take very long. And that's why we have to have it plugged into the network, so we can, first of all, access it through the browser on our own network, but also give it internet access so it can download what it needs from Synology automatically. Now, what I'm going to do while we're waiting is I'm going to pull up camera 1, and I'm going to put camera 1, let's see, how am I going to do this? Move it up here, and then I'm going to resize myself so you can see both me and the Synology screen at the same time. And while I do that, no, you know what? If I go to pull up the chat room, then you're not going to see the Synology anymore. So let me go full screen on camera 1 for a minute because I want to go back to the chat. Thomas Mac T, now a member for 35 months. He says, 1 more month. Geez, I hope it'll be more than 1 more month. But yeah, 1 more month to the big 36. Also, Buster renewed his membership, now a member for 38 months. Say hello again to everyone. Filament on Fire said you want to mirror write cache drives because all data will remain in the cache drives for a while until it's flushed. That's a good tip. Billy Man said, thank you for taking the time to do the stream. I'm going to have to replace my DS1812 and I'm looking at the 1825. So why are you replacing the 1812? Just because it's 13 years old, or is there some other reason? John Struthers joins us and says hello. There's Dennis K saying hello. Well, I heard it beep. I think it's time for me to get back over here. So let's go back to Synology. No, it's still counting down. Oh, wait a minute. It's just refreshing. Hold on. I'll bring it back. Just minimize myself here. Maybe I should go in this corner. I don't know. Can't find a place for me. So right now, the operating systems have been installed, and now the packages like SMB and, you know, the basic packages required for this to work on a Windows network, along with the Mac network and FTP and NFS, all of those are packages that are being installed. And once they're installed, you'll see we get to this screen here that says, welcome to DSM 7.2. Click Start. Okay, we have to give this a name. So I'll call it DS1825. I don't need the plus on it. You have to give this an administrator account. So I'm going to call it Carey. And, oh, well, it's going to say it's weak, but that's fine. And this is my, so going to let me do this. Hold on. This is my password. I always set this up on camera the same way. When we're off camera, you know I'm not leaving it that way, right? This is my password. Okay, still says that's really weak. Allow the Synology NAS to be displayed in the web assistant. So when I type find.synology.com and it won't find it, it's because I didn't check this box. So I definitely want to check that box, me personally. Otherwise, I'd have to download a separate Synology desktop assistant application for Windows or for Mac that would then search the network to discover where it is. Or I could ping the device name. If I go to command prompt and I don't know how to access the NAS, I can't find it, I could type ping DS1825 and it should come back with its IP address. A lot of different ways. This is the easiest way to find it if you ever need to. I hit next. I don't want RoboForm to save it. And see what happens. Select an update option. Auto update to important or auto update to the latest versions if they're important or not. You know I want this one, right? To me, this should be the default, but that's just my choice. Next. Create a Synology account. Now, this is really helpful if you want to use this on the cloud and if you want to have access to it remotely. I do not ever set this up for myself or for my clients. I'm going to hit skip. Now that's just for me, okay? I expect you to make the choice that's right for you. If you want to agree to allow Synology to collect data to help strengthen, you can check the box. If not, you don't have to. It's all anonymized and it helps them, you know, makes them aware of problems when they occur. But I never have problems. I don't know if I was. I suppose if this thing was still in beta or something, I would be turning that on. So if you want to set up the cloud stuff, that's what all this is. Synology Photos, Synology Office, and Synology Drive Server. You don't have to do this now or at all. I never do this. Me personally, I just don't need a NAS for that reason, but most people do. Regardless, I'll just say no thanks, because you can always do this later. If you register this device when you buy it, you'll get an extra 2 years on top of the original factory warranty. They really want to know who you are. Every company wants to know who their customers are, because if a customer buys from you once, they'll likely buy from you again. But if you don't know who they are, how can you reach out to them and tell them, hey, we got a sale right now? Even if it's an upgrade, hey, that 10 gig network card you wanted to get, but you thought you couldn't afford it. They're on sale right now. So it's not necessarily evil that they want your information. If you're a customer, they'd like to know you're a customer so that they can let you know, rather than just an email blast to strangers. What about an email blast to owners of our equipment that might appreciate knowing about a new upgrade or a sale? So you can choose to do that or not. So I'm going to dismiss that since we're live, and I'm not going to enable two-factor, but you should. But again, because we're live and this is a sample video, I'm going to say no thanks on that as well. And again, I've got to tell it twice. This is really important. So normally I would be setting this up. So I advise you to set it up, but not if you're making a live worldwide video on YouTube. Maybe do that off camera. With all of the setup out of the way, now it's time to figure out what the heck we're going to do with our drives. So we need to create a storage pool, and within the pool, we create a volume. Think of a pool as a giant partition, and think of a volume as a folder. I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch of the imagination to put it that way, but it's the best way to explain what's happening here. So essentially, the storage pool, think of it like a partition. You can put multiple partitions on one drive. I don't like to do that. I like one big partition no matter how big or small the drive is. I create a storage pool the same way. I want as much storage as possible in one volume. So with that, I'm going to hit create now, and it says start to create storage pools and volumes. And by the way, if I get rid of camera 1 up here, we are getting some notification that there is a quick tour if we want to go through that to help walk us through setup. I'm ignoring this. So we're going to go just focus on this screen. Before data can be stored on your Synology NAS, please create at least one volume and one storage pool. Storage pool is created through the aggregation of one or multiple drives, and a volume is created on a storage pool, and it's where all your data is stored. Follow the wizard to start creating a storage pool and volume. Start. What type of RAID do you want? Synology Hybrid RAID is a RAID 5 with a fault tolerance of 1. This is the recommended RAID type for beginners, and this allows you to combine drives of different sizes in the future to optimize volume size and to ensure data redundancy. Highly recommended. SHR2, maybe, if we're putting 8 drives and we want to lose the space of 2 of them or the capacity to have dual drive tolerance, dual drive faults, I still wouldn't do that unless I had more than 8 drives personally, but you have to have a minimum of 4 to even be considered. Then you've got your standard RAID 1, which you would use if you had, let's say, 2 drives. Or maybe you wanted to not use all 8 drives in one big volume. Maybe you want 4 of the drives to mirror the RAID 5 on the other 4 drives. You could set that up too. So you've got striping, RAID 5, RAID 6, just basic usage, just a bunch of disks, JBOD, and of course just RAID 0, where you're striping across all your capacity with no redundancy, and if one drive fails, you lose all the drives. All the data is gone. So I hope you keep backups if you choose RAID 0. It's not really going to run any faster because the networking is the bottleneck. So the default SHR is what I would pick, and it's already picked for me by the wizard. Drive type, SATA hard drives, number drives 4. We can give the storage pool a name. I never do. I hit next. I check this box because I want the storage pool to use all 4 drives. All 4 drives are listed here at 3.6 terabytes. They are 4 terabyte drives reported in decimal versus reported in binary. It's the same number. There are 2 drives that do not meet the drive requirements. That's going to be the NVMe drives. I'm sure of it. Yeah. These don't meet drive requirements for storage, but they will meet drive requirements for caching. I'm not quite sure how yet because I've never done this before, but presuming the wizard's going to walk us through this, and this is all normal and what we would expect at this point. So I hit next. Storage pool 1, a total capacity of those 4 drives minus 1, the capacity of 1 drive for data redundancy. So we're going to use the maximum allowable size. We can give the volume a description if you want to. I'm not even going to bother. I hit next. I always want the BTRFS or the B-tree file system. It's far superior than the old out-of-date ext4 basic Linux file system. This was great, and it was the bee's knees, but not anymore. Say hello to the new kid in town.
new being, new to you. B-tree files, sometimes called Butterfuss, if you want to be one of the cool kids. The Butterfuss file system supports advanced features including shared folder snapshots and replication, shared folder data, and advanced data integrity protection. If I deploy a NAS to a customer's office or to myself, and it does not support BTRFS, I will not use it. I've seen too many problems with the ext4 with data corruption and volume issues over time that BTRFS has proven rock solid for me. Now we can go forward into like ZFS, but I would do that if we're dealing with much, much larger storage arrays. So for right now, this is in 2025, with these kind of NASs, any kind of NAS that I deal with, I am choosing BTRFS, and I recommend you do the same. Next, do I want to encrypt the volume? The problem with encrypting the volume is now it's going to take processing and RAM resources to encrypt and decrypt the data as you read and write it. So if you want to slow your NAS down, and again, depending on how much you're using the NAS, how many people are accessing it at the same time, how much RAM you've got in it, what sort of processor your NAS has, how big your drive arrays are, all of that plays a role. So you may turn it on and not even notice any performance difference. You might turn it on and go, wow, this really slowed everything down. Depends how paranoid you are over your data. For me personally, I leave encrypt this volume off, but that's just my personal preference. Next, this gives us confirmed settings. It's saying, look, you want this in Synology Hybrid RAID. It's on a hard drive that's SATA. We're using drive 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is all we have plugged in. The estimated capacity is 11,147 gigs, with the allocated capacity to the volume, 11,140. So we're going to use all, and we're going to do that in the BTRFS, the B-tree file system. Yes, we just confirmed. Are you sure? Yes, because it is going to erase the drives. So it erased the drives when it initially set them up, and if they were already set up and they already had data on them, by recreating the volume, we have to remove any volume that may have already existed. That's why you're getting the warning again, because they don't know, right? Synology doesn't know, are you using a pre-existing storage volume, or is this a brand new setup? So either way, it's going to verify you're erasing everything. Yes, of course I am. So this will take just a moment. And then ideally, we'll see where to set up the caching. We'll find out here. So all of this I've done dozens of times. I can do this almost with my eyes closed. The caching I've never done before, so let's see how easy or difficult that is for me to figure that out on the fly. So again, you've got the quick tour here you can go through if you choose to. You can go to DSM help later, since we're skipping it now if you change your mind. Notifications, this is important to set up if you want it to email you or send you text messages if drives fail, or if the Synology loses power, or whatever alerts you want to set up. So we'll do that another time when we're not on camera. And since we're skipping it, it says, look, if you want to do this later, just go to the control panel under notification and follow the steps. It's nice they add that little bit there to tell you, reassure you, you can do this later. You don't have to do it right now. This optimizing in the background, it's going to take a while. And that's going to go through all the drives to verify that they're functioning correctly through all the sectors. And we can still continue to use the NAS as normal. We do not have to wait for this to finish. Just pretend like it's not even there and just go about business as normal. Now, I guess to create a cache, we got to start with create an SSD cache. That seems pretty clear. Select a volume to mount the SSD. Well, we only have one volume, so okay. Next. A new SSD cache group will be created. You can allocate its cache group capacity to create a solid-state drive cache on volume 1. Do you want a read-write cache or a read-only cache? You need to use at least 2 SSDs of the same type to create a fault-tolerant cache. The read-write cache first writes data to the SSDs, which is faster than a mechanical drive. And that improves the random read-write performance and accelerates data accelerates data access speeds. A read-only cache means that when you're reading data from the NAS, if there's data files you're opening frequently, instead of pulling them from the hard drive every time, it'll pull them from the SSDs. There's no data loss that will occur should the NAS suddenly lose power, because it's just taking it off the mechanical drive. Well, it's leaving it on the mechanical drive. It's copying those frequently accessed files onto the SSD. But anytime you change those files, if it's read-only, it's still going to write back slower as a read-only cache. It's going to write back at the standard speed. With a read-write cache, it'll write back like instantaneously because it goes to the cache. And then the cache in the background will move it internally while you're doing other things. Should you lose power in the middle of before a write finishes, that's where you have this potential for data loss. And that's why there's a fault-tolerant cache. That's why there's 2 drives. So that's good. Next is what I want. I understand that data loss may occur if the SSD read-write cache is not removed properly. In other words, should you just suddenly lose power. So one way you can prevent that is to plug this into an uninterruptible power supply. I live in an area where power loss very rarely ever occurs. If you live in an area where it happens all the time, you get a lot of storms, or you have older electrical lines that fail, or construction, you probably want to invest in a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. And that'll give you a few minutes, and it'll communicate with the NAS even if you're not around, to shut everything, flush the cache, shut the machine down, while running on the battery of the power supply. And those batteries need to be replaced about every 4 or 5 years, even if you never used it, just like a car battery. That's fine. We accept those conditions. So it's going to be a RAID 1. That's our SSD cache. Both drives will be fault tolerant. So minimum number of drives is 2. Total number of drives used is just 1 that we can actually utilize. Well, the other one is the mirror. That's great. Next. Which drives are we using? All of these. Next. So you'll see we lost the capacity of one of the drives because that drive is just mirroring silently in the background whatever the one drive is we're using. So if the drive fails, we have the other one. Okay, that's the main purpose. Pin all B metadata SSD. Required cache 1.3 gig. Oh, that's nothing. Sure. That should even speed things up more. Enable this feature to enhance the performance of small file access and response time of files that are periodically rewritten, especially in active backup, hyper backup, or snapshot related operations. Please note that this feature requires more cache capacity. Well, we got 372 gigs. I don't think 1.3 is really going to hurt us. Next. Okay, there's our confirm summary of everything we're about to do. Hit apply. And okay, because you're going to get the warning. It's going to erase everything. Oh yeah, okay. All right, we're all set up. So now we've got our data scrubbing that's taking place. That's the optimization up here is basically data scrubbing. Scrubbing doesn't mean cleaning. It means verifying. And then when we come down here, this is a RAID information with regards to the health status of the RAID config, the drives themselves. Everything is healthy and happy. Everything looks good. So with that, when we close this, this is your Synology desktop. You'll see I'm in the browser. No keyboard, mouse, or monitor is needed like a server. We go over here to the package center, we have a red dot. That means there's an update waiting in one of the apps. So we click on the package center, agree to their terms of service regarding their apps. Synology has tons of apps, just like your phone does. And these are for Synology only. If we look at what's installed, you'll see there's a little number 2. That means there's 2 items waiting for updates. Hybrid Share and the SAN Manager. Even though I don't knowingly use either of these apps, I will update them both because they could be security exploits that they're patching, and it doesn't matter if you use them or not. They're installed and running, right? You might have a refrigerator plugged in you never use, and that refrigerator is installed and running. Whether or not you use it, it's still a refrigerator that's on. So I want to absolutely make sure that everything installed is updated, not just the operating system, but the apps as well. When I look at my phone, I want to make sure my operating system on my phone is not only updated, but all the apps on my phone are updated as well. So on an Android phone, you'd go to the Google Play Center and you'd click on your little icon and check for updates. Most of the time this happens automatically, but you can always manually check. With that all updated, There's a couple other things we can do, such as setting up a share. I like to set up a share with a guest account. If we go to the control panel and we go to the shared folder, I would click on to create a brand new shared folder that I'm going to call it public. And this is usually how I set up NASs for my customers. One giant shared folder, that's it. Now within this folder, they can put all the folders they want, okay? But we start with one giant shared folder and everything the customer needs is within that. If the customer needed something secured away from other people, we could password protect another share that requires a login, like let's say payroll or something. You can choose to enable the recycle bin, but if you never empty it, you may run out of space and you won't understand why. When it says, oh, you're using a terabyte of your 12 terabytes of storage, but your storage is almost full because nobody emptied the recycle bin. So you either have to do that yourself or set up a scheduled task to do that once every 30 days or once every 6 months, or do it manually. Ask me how I know about that. If you don't want to worry about it, don't turn the recycle bin on, but if you accidentally delete something, I hope you have backups. So I'll leave the recycle bin on, and that only administrators can access the recycle bin. Next, enable additional security measures. Protect it with encryption. I'm not doing any of that. Skip. Enable data checksum. Yes. Yeah, we definitely want to do that. File compression? No. If we were dealing with a really small amount of storage and we're trying to get more capacity rather than replacing the drives, we don't have any money to replace the drives, this may buy you some more space, but at the cost of performance. Next, there's a summary of everything. Next. Okay, so with the public share created, a couple other things. I want to make sure that the guest account is turned on. So in order to turn on the guest account, I got to remember how to do this. I want to give the guest account read and write access. That way no passwords are required. I can use this just like a USB flash drive, only it's accessible to everybody in the building. We don't have to physically walk around with a flash drive. And we don't have to put a name and password in to access a flash drive, do we? So that's why I don't want a name and password required to access this. Imagine how pissed off I am when I see a NAS manufacturer doesn't allow for this. This drives me crazy. Because on a secured LAN with no outside access, there's no reason to put passwords on it. It's overkill and redundant. So with that, I'm going to hit apply. But here's the other thing. That guest account is disabled. So if we go under user and group down here and look at the guest account, it says it's deactivated. So if I click on edit, is that where I'm at? User groups, no, it's not what I want. Oh, this is it. It just took a minute to come up. It says deactivate this account. That's for security reasons. Because a lot of people are going to turn this on for cloud and they want to secure it. That's fine. I don't ever deploy NASs that way, ever. This is my preference. With that, guests can now access this NAS. So what does that mean? It means if we want to access, we can go to, let's do this. Let's do a full display capture. Let me go back to my OBS. I'm going to turn off window capture. Go back to camera 1, full screen. Now when I turn on display capture, you're going to see my OBS screen and it's going to see itself and it's going to go into an infinite feedback loop. So bear with me for a second and I'll minimize the screen and get it out of the way. Okay. So down here now, if I want to access this, I could type the name of the NAS. Remember what I named it? / DS1825. And what did I name my share folder? I named it public. Now normally it would require you to log in with a name and password. You want to set that up, knock yourself out. I don't want to set that up. I want anybody to be able to access. There it is. Now this is like a giant 12 terabyte flash drive attached to my computer. And for every computer on my network, we can all see the same attached storage, but it's attached over the network. It's as if it's some kind of network attached storage or NAS. Imagine that. And if I want to, I can make this a drive letter by mapping it. So we can go over here to this yellow File Explorer icon, click on the 3 dots. No, it's not there. go to this PC, then click on the three dots, map the network drive. Let's say I want to make drive letter Y, because Z is already the other NAS. We can browse, and we should see it in the list here. Give that a second to propagate. We should see the 1825 appear in this list. It's right there. We should see all of our shared folders right there. That's what I want. Click OK. So anytime I click drive Y, it's going to direct it to here, and it'll reconnect every time I restart the computer automatically. Now look, I have drive Z, I have drive Y. Drive Y says 10.4 terabytes. That's that original 12 terabytes. Again, it's the way it's reporting the space is different, but it's still the same amount of space. Double click it like any other drive, copy and paste to it, install programs to it if you want to. They might be a little slow loading over the network, depending on the speed of your network and how big the program is, but that's an option to run things right off of this as you would any other internal hard drive on your computer. You just can't boot to it off your computer. It's really that difficult. If I wanted to, I could manually just go / DS1825 / public. That'll get me there too. Boom, I'm there. Now, when we look in the options, there's a couple things I like to make sure of. I go to this control panel. Oh, I'm already in the control panel. And I don't agree with where they're putting this. But if you look where it says Info Center, under Device Analytics, it says allow Synology NAS to be displayed in the web assistant. Remember the find.synology.com? If find.synology.com isn't showing your Synology, it's because you didn't check this box. Remember, we checked it in the beginning, but what if we didn't? Or what if it somehow became unchecked? How do you turn that back on? It's under the Info Center, under Device Analytics. When you turn that on, your find.synology.com will work again. From that point forward, just hit the apply button, you're good to go. Another thing I like to check for are Windows updates. So again, in the control panel, I guess I didn't need to close that. Under Update and Restore, we make sure that we're running the latest DSM update, which is currently update 4. I will be setting up notifications on this. That'll be located under Notification. You can set up email, push service, like SMS, etc. You can go through all that, which I'm not going to do on a live video for what should be obvious reasons. Hardware and power. These drives are going to go to sleep after a while of not being used, and they might take a minute or two to wake them back up. So if I just randomly click on the Y drive after this thing's been sitting idle overnight, I may not get a response for what feels like eternity, as each drive has to spin back up. So this is saying after 20 minutes, shut the drives down. That saves power, saves wear and tear. On the other hand, 20 minutes may be a bit too soon. You can say none and have it always running. And it really depends on how long it's taking the unit to warm back up or to wake up from hibernation. For some of you, it may be instantaneous. For others, it may feel like eternity. You can decide that yourself. I'm going to leave it at the default settings for now. You know, you can configure it to wake on LAN and all this other stuff that, again, I don't personally use. The USB ports on this, they're there to plug in like a UPS, a printer, other storage devices can be plugged in. This gives you the status of all of that. When you plug in a UPS and it says, hey, you got a UPS, then the UPS can tell it, we've lost power, you're running on battery, please flush the caches and shut down safely so that you don't have to be around. If it happens at 2:30 in the morning, power is lost, the unit will shut down safely. This means that you'll be less likely to suffer any data loss or an issue with a power spike killing your power supply, for example. Your UPS will take the hit instead. So that's an option if you want to pursue that. What else can I tell you about? You just create the one shared folder. If I don't have the task scheduler set to empty the recycle bin, I need to do that manually from time to time by logging in, going to shared folder, going to action, and empty recycle bins. I've had a number of clients where Synology was in a warning state that once the drive gets to be about down to 20% of free space, it starts sending alerts you're running out of space. You can adjust that alert as well. In fact, I think it's under the storage volume information. So some NASs we've looked at, they populate the desktop with a bunch of stuff. I like that Synology just gives us the package center, the control panel, file station, which is like a local Windows Explorer. I never really use it. You can browse and do everything through the NAS itself. The help, I never use the help either. But up here, you see this button? This is where all the goodies are. And the one goodie I want on the desktop that I use all the time is the storage manager. Right-click on that and add it to the desktop. And then if I hit the escape key on the keyboard, does that do it? No, just click anywhere. And then that closes this window, right? That's just click outside of, yeah. Anyway, so now storage manager's down here. I go in here a lot to see the health of the drives. If we have a failed drive, it'll be like in red. It'll show us which one it is, along with giving you the number. Same with the NVMe's, which slot it is. If there's a problem, it highlights it here. To get into more detailed hard drive data, we can click on each drive, hit the down arrow, and see all of the information about its temperature, how long it's, how much storage is on it, what its health status is, its serial number, etc. If we look at the volume, we get volume information and health here. We see that it's optimizing in the background. It tells us it's, just let it run. It's not interfering with us using it. It may be a little less responsive, but it's a brand new NAS. How can I tell? So don't worry about it. Just let it do what it's going to do. Bigger storage pools and larger capacities, this could take days. But again, you don't have to wait for it. I've never seen this ever fail. Knock on wood, I never will. But it's great peace of mind to just let it do this, let it finish, and maybe set up a task scheduler to run data scrubbing every, let's say on storage pool 1, that's repeated every 6 months, hit save, and now it'll just do that, and it'll send you an alert, a notification to remind you that it did it, and then if it was successful or not. Out of sight, out of mind, but with reminders. You can set up, there's the SSD cache advisor. This is a pretty interesting idea. What this does is it watches, when you turn this on, it starts watching how your NAS is being used. And it'll watch it for a while, at least a week anyway. After it's analyzed your data usage style of your NAS over a period of a week, it'll make recommendations for optimizing your cache. So you hit the Analyze button. Right? You read what this says? Perfect. So while it's analyzing, it's consuming a bit of resources, which means it might be slowing you down a little bit. You may not even notice it, but it's data collecting. And the idea is, by sacrificing a little bit of the resources right now, it can optimize the resources you have from that point forward once it's got the analysis. So we can turn that on, but it doesn't turn on by itself. You have to know to turn this on. And it's going to start just looking at everything, looking at how often you're reading, how often you're writing, the size of the files, everything that can optimize and tune the cache to work for the way that you use or your company and employees use that NAS on average. What else can I tell you? Let me go back to camera 1 here. Bear with me a second. And let me go back to the chat and see if you guys have any questions. We're just over the 2-hour mark here. We can go really in depth on this. It's crazy just how powerful modern day NAS units are, and especially when you have so many apps. We haven't even really gotten to the apps. I think my battery on my mouse just died. I'm not getting a light. Spare mouse. Hold on. Let me get a spare mouse. Grab a backup mouse during a live show, and I guess I'm going to have to put this on the old charger tonight. There we go. Backups, ladies and gentlemen. See that? Minor interruption. That's what a backup's for. All right, let's go to the chat room. Again, if you have any questions for me, what we're going to do Next, before we wrap up today, we are going to put the 10 gig card in. So I'm going to show you on this our current network speed and what the network situation looks like. Then we'll shut it all down. Don't worry about the optimizing thing. You can interrupt it. It'll pick back up when you turn it back on. We're going to install the card and then move the network cable over to this card. We'll check the network settings again. We are set up on a 10 gig network here. So we should be connected at 10 gig. And that upgrade shouldn't require us to install anything. Because it's all Synology made product, you just plug it in and it works. Right? When you go to third parties, you're trying to save some money, you may end up with something that's flaky, has more steps to get it configured and installed. And if you're a tinkerer and you want to do that, have at it. But you lose the peace of mind that comes with the resiliency and the robustness if you can stick with everything name brand, if you can afford it, and if that meets your needs. The payback for you is the investment in the robust reliability and the ease of installation where you just plug things in and they work. Right? I didn't have to put any patches or workarounds to get other drives to work. I can, but I didn't have to. It's your choice, but it's a choice many people don't realize they have. That's the part that's upsetting me. Let's get the word out. Admit it, that was a real easy setup. You can't fault Synology for making that as easy as possible and ensuring that their customers aren't shooting themselves in the foot by buying the cheapest thing possible to throw in here that ends up making them think poorly of Synology, right? They blame Synology. That's just what people do. Or they have some drives laying around the house and they're too cheap to buy new ones. Why should I when I already have these sitting here? And they throw them in here and the drives fail prematurely. And then, oh, you know, blah, 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 Synology. No. They would never do that in a business, by the way. No professional for-profit business would ever step over dollars to pick up dimes. This is an investment. You buy it, you set it up right the first time, and you don't have to touch it for years in most cases. There's always exceptions. The robust reliability of Synology, from my own personal experience, I've never had one go bad for a client. The worst I've ever had to do is replace failed drives, and we haven't seen any failed drives, any of the Seagate Ironwolves or the Western Digital Reds ever fail since the 3 terabyte drives were the biggest drives you could buy. That's been a long time. Those were the last series of drives we had problems with. Since then, they've been solid. Now, Synology is rebranding other manufacturers. This could be Toshiba. This could be Seagate. I personally don't use any Toshiba drives ever, so I don't know if this is Seagate or Toshiba. But if the drives are built to the same robust endurance that we've seen from Synology, then these should be the best drives that you could pick in theory. That doesn't mean other drives won't work as well. But Synology is putting their foot down and saying, we guarantee these drives work well. That's the difference. Okay, so before we shut this down and put the network card in, let me go back over to the chat. If you have any questions about this, please do ask now. David Graham says, out of all the NAS I've seen, this is the best. Here's the thing, David. I agree with you, but I'm going to tell you, I've never had an 8-bay NAS in my life. Mara and I are nerds. There's no secret about that. And Mara likes to have as much power as she can have. And I'm like, Mara, you don't need that. And she's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what I need. How dare you? I go, well, how much do you need? All of it. Okay, but if all of it's 10 gigs, and I can't even finish the sentence, then I need 10 gigs. But if all of it's 25 gigs, I need 25, like we're talking network speed. Like if we could get a 25 gig network, we don't need it. Yes, we do. Okay. So practicality's out the window. We don't need 8 bays for drives. We don't use that much storage. Yes, we do. I'm already having the conversation in my head. So the beauty of this is, We're pretty comfortable where we're at with the 5 bay. 5 20 terabyte Seagate Iron Wolves in the 1525 using the script to just, let us use any drives. Runs great, no problems. We're using about half of the capacity with one drive fault tolerance RAID 5. So that's like 80 terabytes, then we're using 40 of it with 40 free. If we move those 5 drives into this NAS, which is what we plan to do, and we add 3 more 20 terabyte Seagate Iron Wolves, of course we have to run the patch, but after that, we're not going to have 40 terabytes free. We're going to have 100 terabytes free. We're still going to be using the same 40, but all of a sudden now we've got another 20, 40, 60 terabytes. So we could go to a 2-drive fault tolerance and lose 20 more, but I don't want to do that. So what's the point? What is the point of having 100 terabytes free when we're not even utilizing the 40 terabytes free we have now? There isn't. There's no point to that. As you see here, we've got 4 drives in place. If we took the 5 drives just to do the upgrade, if we took the 5 drives out of the 1525, put them in 5 bays, left the other 3 bays open, let's just say we've got 40 terabytes free. When we start eating up that 40 terabytes, let's say we only have 20 terabytes free and we're getting a little nervous, buy another 20 terabyte drive. Boom, we just expanded back to 40 terabytes free again. Still have 2 more bays open. Then, and if we get back down to 20 terabytes again, or whatever number you decide, buy another 20 terabyte drive. And it doesn't have to be 20. And we can put a 30 in there. It'll self-adjust. It's pretty damn cool with Synology Hybrid RAID. But regardless, just to keep the math simple, we had another 20. Now we have another 20 terabytes. And we still have another bay. So you can buy it as you need it because drives usually get cheaper over time. To buy it now, it's costing us more money. So we don't need it. Yes, we do. Okay. The great thing is by adding the drive, you don't lose anything. You can do it while the unit is on. It's hot swappable. Put the drive in, log into the NAS, and say, I want to expand my drive or my array to this drive. I don't think you have to do it 1 drive at a time. You might be able to do multiple drives at a time to expand it. Now, if we're replacing or rebuilding the array, we do that 1 drive at a time, unless we're running a 2-drive redundancy. The idea is that if it's going to take a week to rebuild your array because your capacity is so big and so full, what if another drive dies in that week? You've lost everything unless you have backups. But I would say, for me personally, you can run a single drive redundancy up to like, I don't know, 90 drives or something, which would be a little irresponsible. But anything over 8, so if we had a 10 bay or 12 bay, anything more than 8, I would do a 2-drive redundancy, and I would expect to lose that full capacity. That of a 20 terabyte drive is $310 refurbished. All I'm buying is peace of mind. If a drive fails, I have that to fall back on. On the other hand, if somebody breaks into the building or the building catches fire, there's a flood or a virus, it all gets wiped out the same. So that's why it's not a backup. But the odds of a failing drive needing to be replaced are much, much higher to occur and to occur more often than a fire, theft, flood, etc. But there's always exceptions. So you've got to figure out where you're in that and make the decision that's right for you. There's Mara, power, speed, and storage. Yeah, I think she's got a problem. Needs more cowbell. What is the 2TF at the top? 2FA stat. Oh, that's multi-factor authentication. That's so that anybody just can't log into that if they get the name and password. that there would be like a text sent to your phone or some other means to verify the person trying to access the NAS is authorized. It's a second verification of credential. So just knowing the name and password right now is enough for me to do this video live. But when we actually utilize this, we will be turning two-factor authentication on. So you not only have to know the name and password, but it will also either send me an email to my email address with a code, or it will text my phone with a code, and you'll have like 2 or 3 minutes to enter that code. If you don't do that in 2 or 3 minutes, you ain't getting in and you ain't making any changes. Highly recommend you turn 2FA on for everything you log into. If you're logging into Google, turn on two-factor authentication. If you log into your bank, your credit card, your utility company, your mortgage payment company, anything dealing with money, always turn on either two-factor authentication, 2FA, or multi-factor authentication, MFA. Because otherwise, just getting your name and password is too easy these days. Is defragging even a thing anymore? There's still reasons to defrag a regular hard drive when it comes to like data recovery. If you were to send a drive that failed into a data recovery service, you would be far more likely to get the data back if it's been defragged recently. It can also reduce wear and tear on the mechanical drive. On a solid state drive, it makes no difference. It's just wear and tear. But it doesn't need to be done very often, once a year maybe. And Windows takes care of it for you automatically. With a NAS, defragging doesn't make any sense because we're not using one drive. We're using, in this case, 4 drives working together as one. So how would you defragment that exactly? It's already fragmented from one drive to the next, to the next, to the next, and overlaps for redundancy. So it depends on the context in which we're answering that question. What we want to do is do the data scrubbing. Data scrubbing, and again, I think the word scrubbing inherently, people think that means to clean it. It's not cleaning it. It's verifying the data integrity of what you have on there. And if it finds any little bits that aren't adding up correctly in the right parity, it corrects them for you. It's really cool. So I always schedule that to run, for me, about every 3 months. I don't know if it's correcting anything, and it does take a long time, so I'll have it run like at the offices that I maintain. I'll schedule it to run Saturday morning at 2 in the morning. And you know, it's usually done within 10 to 20 hours, depending on how big the array is and how much storage they have. It sends me an email, because I forget. I usually have it run on the 1st of the month. And since it's running in the middle of the night, I don't realize till the next day, and I check my email, and I get an email that says, you know, your client's NAS just started a RAID scrub as scheduled. And then I see another email a few hours later, RAID scrubbing completed successfully. I take those emails and I store them into the client's folder in my email, because if any problems arise, it helps me to isolate when the problem occurred. If I know that the NAS is checking the hard drive health every month, it's sending me reports, it's data scrubbing every couple months, it's sending me reports, I can verify to my customer the work is being done and the last time it was done and that it was successful. Then we can say, okay, well, we knew it worked for sure on this day and it's not working today. What's happened? It helps in the diagnostic. And if your customer thinks you're not doing anything, that does happen from time to time, you can just share all those emails and say, how many of these do you want? This is what I'm doing. I'm monitoring this. And I don't normally share that with clients unless there's something to tell them. But I am always babysitting, auditing, whatever you want to call it, checking in on this. I don't just trust technology to run automatically without intermittent supervision. And I never will. I mean, I've been using computers most of my life, and if there's one thing I've learned, don't turn your back on them for too long. You don't want to find out your backups haven't been made properly after a disaster, and you confidently go to restore your automated backups to find out, whoopsie, turns out they weren't backing up as like you thought. I walked into a client's office one time. I said, do you guys make backups? They said, yeah, it's on the back machine. I go to the back machine, it's got a tape drive, and the tape drive is whirring. It's making, you know, bzzz. Then it sounds like it's running backwards, bzzz. Then it's running forwards, bzzz. Then it's running backwards, bzzz. And it just, I don't know what it's doing. What is that? That's our backup. So is it backing up now? I guess. Our other IT guy set it up. All right, so I'm just, you know, walking around the office. I'm kind of assessing what they got going on here. Finally, I'm ready to say, okay, let's take a look at what's going on with this tape drive. Nothing is going on with this tape drive. Nothing. It's like in some kind of a loop, and it's not doing anything. Like it's moving, but for no apparent reason. It's not scrubbing anything. It's not looking for anything. And 69% of all tape backups fail. It's a terrible media for which to store your data. But if you had a ton of data tape at that level, when you're talking like petabytes, it's much more affordable. And with the right type of come on, Carey, what's the word? With the right type of parity, I wanted to say polarity. With the right kind of parity, it can correct errors on tape no differently. So I don't deal with clients that big. And this is an old tape drive, like an old Trayvan tape drive that they used to sell to consumers back in the day. And they just kept using it, but it wasn't actually doing anything. They thought it was because they could hear it make a noise, but it wasn't. It was just making noise. Said, you guys have no backups. What? Yeah, there's no backup on there. That hasn't backed up in ages. Maybe you want to do something about that, or... So we back up their data to a little 2.5-inch SSD that plugs into a USB port. We copy everything off of the NAS onto it, just a file synchronization. We give that to the boss. We say, take this home, put it in a safe or something. I'll take one home. If anything happens to me, you have your company's data. But most of the time you can rely on me. I'll have the most recent backups. And, you know, depending on what you want to pay me, we'll update you, you know, every 3 months, every 6 months, once a year, so you can take that back home. And that way you're going to minimize your loss in a worst case scenario. But to have nothing, ooh. And backing up to a little solid state drive, so much faster than a tape drive, more reliable. You don't need a special tape drive. You know, you can plug it into any USB computer at any time and read the data. It's not in any proprietary format. So on the other hand, the downside of that is if somebody gets their hands on it without it being encrypted, they can just look at it. So put it in a safe. Make sure it's a fireproof safe. If they want to encrypt it, we can do that. Just costs a little bit more money. It's up to the customer. I give them options. How much would this rig cost? So the NAS right now, we looked at Amazon, it's just under $1,300. Now we're going to put Seagate Iron Wolf 20 terabyte drives that are refurbished. They're $310 a piece on Amazon today. Plus we pay about 10%, a little bit less, 9% in sales tax. So if this is $1,200 and each drive is $300 and we were to put 8 drives in here, so we've got $300, $600, $900, $1,200, and then twice that, $2,400 worth of storage. $1,200 for the NAS, $3,600 at about $340, $330 in sales tax. And what we end up with, and that didn't include, by the way, the price of the NVMe's or the 10 gig upgrade card. So we're going to be around $4,000 with that much storage, right? 8 times 20, so 8 times 2 is 16, 160 terabytes minus 20 terabytes for parity. It's 140 terabytes of storage. If you want to buy a 15,000 square foot house, you know it's going to cost more, right? So whether or not you're just curious, if you need that kind of capacity, expect to pay accordingly. If you need that size of a house, expect to pay more than a more moderately sized house. Synology makes a 2-bay NAS. Synology makes something called a B station. We've never reviewed it, and I'm not sure how to review it. If I come around here, I think I still have it in a box. The B station is a single drive, already installed, plug and play, ready to eat, turnkey solution for consumers. I have never opened this box. The reason is when I agreed to do the review, I didn't realize how different a B station was. Now, there are lots of other channels that have reviewed the B station. If you're curious about it, as a home user, not looking for anything this complex or this expensive, this would probably be overkill for home users unless your name is Mara. But, you know, there's always exceptions, is all I'm trying to say. She's going to come down here and kick me if I'm not careful. But let's go over here to camera 2. Okay, so the Synology B station kind of looks like a Western Digital MyBook, doesn't it? But this you would connect over the network. I think this is a 4 terabyte model. It says 4 terabytes. It's plug and play, ready to go. And you can back up your phone with this, all your photos, all your contacts, everything that can go on here for everybody's phone in your family. You can back up your computer, you can back up your data, you can do a system image of your computer, all that on here. And it's all very user-friendly, so you don't have to be a nerd or a geek. On the other hand, as a nerd or a geek, I don't want a coloring book if I'm a true artist. I want to draw my own pictures. So it's not a matter of being on a high horse or being below me. It's just who I am. If you're just starting out, maybe you should be looking at a B station for home use for both affordability and familiarization, unless you have more than 4 terabytes you need to back up, in which case you'd fall more into an enthusiast category. Now, they do make the B stations with larger capacities, but they're not intended to be for corporate use where that kind of data usage would be common. This is for the average home user and family that has a way to back up their data, that you're not paying for cloud storage, you're not paying for backup software. This is all built into the price of this. It's one turnkey solution. Take it out of the box, plug it in, and it's real easy walkthroughs and wizards. So if you want to look here on YouTube for reviews of the B station, there are folks like Space Rex who did an excellent walkthrough. I think he put his non-technical wife in front of it without any instruction to see if she could intuitively work her way through backing up her phone and such. And, you know, I applaud him for doing that because it's somebody's phone. You got to protect all the data. That's why it's a very difficult thing for me to review it without exposing everything I'm backing up. That doesn't mean I'm not going to. It's sitting for a reason. I'm trying to figure out the best way to review this. But there already are reviews that have done this. Okay, so you have options. This is a pretty excessive option. I'm noticing there are, in fact, lights over each drive. Oh, that's good. I like that. So if a drive has an issue, I'm assuming that light will turn red. In other words, even though it tells us it'll be, you know, let's say drive 3, and we can look for drive 3, having a visual indicator means when you walk in the room and you see this, you can immediately tell if there's a problem just by the light. Even though these are often in wiring closets, if you're not getting notifications, how do you know you're not getting them? Maybe this thing sent you a notification that drive 3 died, and you never got that notification. You walk in the server room, you see a light that's red or flashing. Oftentimes, maybe the blue light may be flashing. Something doesn't look normal. Oh, I better check this out while I'm here, right? So these lights are critical, and I'm happy to see they are there. I was initially concerned because most NAS units will have lights either along the side. It says drive 1, drive 2, drive 3, and you want to see green. Green is good. And the Synology did implement them in a different way, and this makes a lot more sense that the drive light is on the drive itself versus over to the side. All right, good job, Synology. Let me go back to camera 1. But yeah, we really should review this. We've had it probably over a year. And I feel bad about it because I didn't realize what I agreed to. And I'm just not sure how to review it. But lots of other people have already done reviews. If you don't want to wait for me, you can check it out. It might be a better solution for you. So you have options. Sub-Zero says hello. Philly Man said he had a ASUS Store 8-bay NAS years ago. Found out there was a ransomware security notice. But when I got home, it was too late. Lost my data. This has happened to QNAP. This has happened to Synology. That's why you want automatic updates to happen. In most cases, everybody was protected if they were updated. So the lack of updating, the lack of maintenance. You know, I had a customer say, what do we pay you for? Right? I've told the story. And what would happen if we stopped paying you? We don't see you come into the office. Well, it's because I'm working remotely, and this is prior to the pandemic when they didn't really understand what working remotely meant. But I suspect they get a pretty good view of what it means now. And they're old school. If I'm hiring you, I want to see you in the office. You don't need to see me in the office. I don't care. Paying you, I want to see you. Oh, you're one of those people. So how do I know you're doing anything? And I said, well, how many times have you had a failure in the last 10 years? How many times has your network been down? How many times have you lost data in the last 10 years? We never have. That's right. Do you think that just happened all by itself? Well, how would I know? Well, that's how you would know. From your own experience. That's what you're paying me for. You might pay for insurance on the building. Does your insurance guy show up every day? You probably never see him. You probably talk to him on the phone. You probably never met him face to face. This is insurance. Obviously, we went separate ways. I didn't do anything wrong. I never raised the guy's rate. He was paying me the same amount for 10 years. Never once increased his rate. And he thought he was paying me too much. After 10 years of never raising his rate. Do you think he still made the same amount of money himself as he did 10 years prior? Anyway, sometimes customers are going to be this way. Whatever, I'm not going to argue with them. You want to find out what happens if you don't use me? Fine. But when the emergency comes, don't expect me to drop everything to come help you. I will gladly help you as time permits, but customers that are on a retainer always get priority service and a lower rate. You will no longer get the lower rate. You will now be at the rate I charge. I locked you in at my rate 10 years ago. You're sacrificing and forfeiting. If you call me back and you have an emergency, it's not an emergency to me. If I'm available, I'll come out. If I'm not available, I will schedule you as soon as possible. But if you keep your retainer, you keep your low rate, and you keep priority service. He says, yeah, I think going a different direction is what we want to do. Okay. So 5 years later, they call me, and they've been through 5 different tech guys with no written documentation, so everybody's doing everything the way that they want to, and they all don't agree on what the right way is, so they've screwed it up 5 different ways to Sunday, because not only do they not agree with what the previous person did, they don't agree with what I did. They want to implement different hardware that they're familiar with, that they're going to support. Anyway, 5 years later, they call me. Would you consider coming back to help us? What would you do? I thought, well, it's going to cost you. We're desperate. We are completely down. Our phones don't work. Our email doesn't work. And we can't access any of our data. Oh, good. You waited until the whole thing collapsed. Not just one. Everything collapsed. Then you call. That's what had to happen for them to make that phone call. They did not want to make that phone call. No, they didn't. Well, my schedule's open. I can get over there. I pick up their NAS, and all of a sudden they have 2 NASs. They only had one when I left. What's this one? Well, the other one broke, so we got that one. The other guy told us we needed it. They're covered in cobwebs. I don't know. Nobody's touched this. Nobody's dusted it. Nothing. So what's the story? Well, apparently the second NAS, we were told both NASs are dead. They need to be replaced again. So they put us in Microsoft Azure for $1,000 a month in the cloud. Everything's really slow. You think? So they plugged it in, they turned it on, they walked away. Nobody was auditing, nobody was maintaining, nobody was updating, nobody was even blowing the dust out of it. When I opened one of the NASs, it didn't even have matching drives. It had a couple of desktop drives of one size and a couple of NAS drives from a different manufacturer of another size. Who did this? I don't know. Okay. The reason why the NAS didn't work is somebody set it up to save 32 copies of every file. So it filled itself up. But it filled itself up on the Synology drive side of things because they sent him home with the Synology to have them synchronize over the network, which we couldn't have done back in the day because the bandwidth wasn't available at both the owner's home and business. So saving 32 copies of each file filled all the empty space, but when you looked on the NAS, it said you're only using 1 terabyte of space, and you've got a 30 terabyte array, but 29 terabytes is actually in use. Where? Where is it, Synology? You can't see it. There's no way to access it. You'd have to install Synology Drive and go through Synology Drive to see this hidden area. Well, we don't want any of that. We want what's actually on the drive. So not only were the recycle bins never emptied and they were full, there were up to 32 duplications of every single file. The only way I could figure out to delete it was to uninstall Synology Drive. That took a couple hours. And when it was done, we had 28 terabytes free. You know what could have prevented this? Maintenance. Blowing the cobwebs off of it. Putting the right drives in it to begin with. There was nothing wrong with either one of those Synologies. Not only did they not have to replace it, but the second one that supposedly died didn't need to be replaced either. This is what happens when you hire people who don't know what the hell they're doing, but you don't know what they're doing, so you just assume they're computer techs, they must know what they're doing. After going through 5 computer techs in 5 years, they came back around to me so I could put it all back the way it was 5 years earlier and undo and untangle that mess. And I billed them for every minute of my time. And I was glad to help them, but this whole thing was stressful. And we didn't need to go through all this stress. If they just would have followed what we were doing, everything would have been fine. And then once that was resolved, then we had to figure out what happened to the email. Turns out somebody didn't pay the bill. We never got a bill. I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't like I could find that out in 2 seconds. It took me a week of digging to figure out they didn't pay their bill. All right. I think when I sent them the bill, they were pissed. And they paid me, and I've never heard from them since. But they were freaked out. Their business was shut down until I got that all untangled. And that was 2 weeks of my life just trying to untangle the mess. Dennis says, is by far one of the best out-of-box experiences on the market. Buy once, cry once, they say. Yeah. Billy Man, who mentioned he was going to replace his other, what was it, an 1812? And I asked him why. And I've been looking for his response going back in the chat. He says, it's because it's at end of life and it hasn't gotten any sort of update. I figured I'd get one that can hold more storage. And I think the max size hard drive on the 1812 Plus are 4 terabyte. So that doesn't support DSM-7, because that's usually controlled by the operating system, but I don't know. I don't have one that old. But you would get a faster processor as well. I was just curious, because these things can run for a human's lifetime, pretty much. But whether or not they remain safe and secure and reliable over that time, well, it's going to take a lifetime to find out. You see Barry Klein joins us and says hello. Welcome into Barry. And I don't know what they're talking about. I'm looking for anything directed to me. Gary Tatum said, I found most home users won't exceed the 1 terabyte drive Windows is installed. I find most end users don't exceed 150 gigs. Most. It's the gamers and the enthusiasts, the movie collector, you know, the collectors. And most people don't do that. Okay, any other questions? Barry says, I'll direct a hello your way. Thank you, Barry. Billyman says, DSM version 6.2 was the last compatible operating system on his old 1812. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely time to replace it. I agree with you. And if you want to replace it with another 8-bay, here you go. This has got dual 2.5 gig Ethernet with SMB 3 multi-channel, meaning you can plug both 2.5 gigs into your switch and have access to 5 gig worth of networking to all your attached computers with no further driver, software, or configuration. It just works. Pretty damn cool. And if you want to double that and go to 10 gig, well, that's what we're about to do now. So this is the E10 G18T1. That just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? And let's go over to the Amazon page again, and let's see what this sells for. I've got it here somewhere. This is the Synology page. Let me turn on my window capture. Okay, so this is what's in this box. Add in card, shop now, features, specs, 5-year warranty, blah, blah, blah. Great, great, great. What I want to know is how much money is it? The E10 G18T1. Let me Control C that. Let's go back over to Amazon. And we'll Control V. Enter. 129 bucks. So that's actually only about 20 bucks more than the other 10 gig Ethernet adapter that works in the 925 and the 1525. That's that little cartridge. It almost looks like a little Nintendo cartridge. This is more like a regular standard PCIe slot. They're both 10 gig cards, but in this case, quite a lot more material in use here. You know, it's physically 3 times larger. And they do sell these, as we talked about, with adding more NVMe storage on here as well. Those are options because it's a PCIe card versus the other models that only have that little cartridge style 10 gig. That's pretty much all it's going to do. Okay, so this is much more customizable. There's a lot more flexibility by having this kind of a slot that we can put other things in the slot. But one thing that we want is 10 gig because that's what we've got on the 1525 and the 925. So what I want to do, let's go back over to camera 1. Here I am. I suppose the first thing I want to do is shut this down. Now, there's a couple ways you can shut down a NAS, and the best way is to log into the NAS and go to the top right corner and choose shutdown, and it'll send a shutdown command and it will shut everything down. The second way, if you have no access to it or you're too lazy like I am, is you can hit the power button right here, the blue power button, until you see it flashing. You hear that beep? Now it's cycling down. If you hold that button down for 10 seconds, it will power it off no differently than pulling the plug, and that can leave you with data integrity issues. So you do what you got to do, but preferably we want to see this thing wind down properly, just like a computer does, go through the shutdown process. But if your computer's seized up and you have to yank the power and shut it down the hard way, then you have to. But if you don't have to, don't do it, because that's how you can create data loss. So with that, I'm going to pull the power plug so that, you know, I don't get myself shocked. We are going right into this slot right here. So let's get this unboxed. Should be one of the easiest upgrades ever. With this in place, then we can put the cover back on and put the screws back in it, and then we're done. What I like about the system being so modular is that you don't have to come up with all this money at once. If it feels like this is what your end goal is, then make the investment and get the device, and just put whatever drives you can afford to put in there. Don't worry about filling it. And if your goal is one day to upgrade the network, well, you're going to have to upgrade the network on your PCs, on your switches. Everything will need to be 10 gig. That, you know, it's not going to work wirelessly at 10 gig. So if you're on your laptop wirelessly in your house, it's only going to go as fast as the wireless. But if you've got a wired machine, you're working directly with the NAS, then you want a 10 gig network for those large file transfers. It's something you can upgrade to when it's convenient or your budget allows for it. So I like the flexibility of that. Who knows, maybe you'll change your mind and you won't even want it after a while. You'll realize 2.5 gig times 2 in SMB multi-channel, which is all included in this, pretty damn fast. And even then, your Wi-Fi, anything connected to Wi-Fi can't keep up. Wi-Fi at the most will run at 2.5 gig. And that's Wi-Fi 7 with a good signal. And anyway, card is a lot smaller in real life than it looked on screen. There's our card, and it's got a big boy adapter here. So if you were to put this in a computer tower, but we're not using that. How did I take it out? Okay, no instructions, that's it. Nor should any instructions be needed, honestly. Just take the card out of its anti-static bag. Right? That's going to go here. So we have to remove the little slot cover, just as you would on any computer. There's a slot cover over your PCIe slots, right? Same thing, only it's half height. This little piece moves up and down. We're going to take our slot cover out. And remember, I'm working backwards. Bear with me here, guys, because I want you to see what I'm doing. And the cost of me doing that is I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to come at this like any other add-in card that you would put into any computer. And I really cannot see. So we want to align the gold fingers with the socket and the groove with the notch. Make sure it's all lined up before you put any downward pressure. You don't want to break anything. We just kind of rock it and push it, and that seats down in there like any other computer add-in card. Slide this cover down like so and put the screw back in. No drivers are needed. We're done. We are completely done. That's all we had to do. Because it's all Synology branded, everything, just think of the world of Apple, right? And how they restrict everything. And they charge more for it. But everything just works. For many people, I mean, you probably know people who own Apple. You might own Apple yourself. You might see that as a value, that you don't have to deal with configurations. You buy the Apple product, you plug it into the Apple thing, and it just Apple works. Maybe Apple Works wasn't the best example. Synology is kind of following in those footsteps. It's going to cost you a little bit more money. It's all going to work together, and it's going to work for a very long time. You know, statistically speaking, you'll be less likely to have any issues, and they can stand behind it and support it 100%. You start putting your own stuff in here, they don't know what you're putting in. They don't know how to support that. You did it. So for Synology's perspective, they want to ensure a good customer experience, even if there is a problem. Using all Synology equipment means there's less likely a problem, and Synology knows how to fix it. Okay, with that, let's plug it back in and turn it back on. Now I'm going to leave the network cable plugged in because I never did go to the network settings, and we're going to show you what that looks like now. Before, it would show us 2 network adapters, both being 2.5 gig. Now when we boot it up, it's going to auto-detect this card. It's going to have now 3 network adapters. Yes, you could use all 3 of them at the same time. You know, you could load balance your own network if you're having a lot of people connect to it all at the same time. Most people aren't going to do that, but a big company might need to, and it's nice to have options. When we go to this 10 gig card, we'll never use those 2.5s. They'll just be blank. But it's nice to know if you want to. Okay, so we're going to wait for this to beep. That's going to tell us it's booted up. And the light going solid blue will also confirm that we're booted up. We're going to wait for that before we try and log into it for obvious reasons. And if everything works good, I'll throw the cover back on and the screws. I'll put the empty trays back in it. I can put the empty trays back in it now while I'm waiting. It gives me something to do, I suppose. I cannot get over how easy these go in. That is like butter. Butter. And we know they're empty because the lights above them are off. So which ones did I leave empty? Well, look. I love that. Simple. Simple. I'm a big fan of simple. There's the beep. The light went solid. We should be able to log into this now. So I'm going to go back over to my browser. Okay. And we'll share the screen with you guys. Okay. Now, let me refresh because I don't know that this isn't cached from before. Let me just see if that brings, yeah, good. Sometimes the IP address can change on a restart, but we're good. So log in. I must have typed my password wrong. All right, very good. Control panel, network interface, a network interface card, LAN 1, LAN 2, LAN 3. What are the details of LAN 2? That's the one we're plugged into now. We're on 2.5 gig. Now that makes sense. Now, if I only have a 2.5 gig switch or a 2.5 gig router, when I plug into LAN 3, it's only going to negotiate to the highest speed that my router or switch will support. So what I'm going to do right now, let's go back to OBS for a second. And let me turn camera 1 back on because I want you to watch this as it happens. Let me go a little bit smaller and the corner. Okay, so you can see me here. Oops. Okay, I'm taking the Ethernet cable from the back, I'm unplugging it, and I'm moving it to the 10 gig card we just plugged in. No drivers, no software, we just plugged it in, turn the machine back on. Right? Turn this back around. That should be communicating with the switch or the router right now to get a new IP address. It's not going to be the same IP address anymore because we can't share the same IP at the same time on 2 different networks. Or that'd be like 2 different people having the same phone number. How's that going to work when the phone rings? So now we have to rediscover the Synology again, but we have to wait a minute for it to to obtain an IP address from the switch. Now my switch has 2.5 gig ports and my switch has 10 gig ports. I'm not sure which one I'm plugged into. So when I check LAN number 3 there, if I see I'm still connected at 2500, that's going to be at the opposite end of the cable, and I just need to move the cable. So I think I'm on the 10 gig one, but this is how we're going to verify. First, we have to find the new IP address assigned to this. So to do that, I can get rid of camera 1 now, because you don't need to be looking at me anymore. Let's go to or just type in find Synology.com, and it's probably going to have a new IP address. We were at 70, the last 2 digits were 70, now it's 61, right? That's our 1825. Double click it, sign in again. And if I type my password right, there we go. Back over to the control panel. Now you see this little drive stacking up here? That's that file synchronization or drive scrubbing or optimization, whatever the heck they're calling it. See, I told you can interrupt it. It'll pick back up where it left off. But we definitely want to let that finish regardless. Over here under control panel, under network interface, LAN 3, that's the card we just added, connected at 10 gig, full duplex. That means 10 gig talking, 10 gig listening. That's technically 20 gig. Pretty damn cool, right? Also under the general network area, if you're browsing your network and you don't see your Synology, it's probably because you don't have WS services turned on. And I do believe that's under, connectivity. Where did they put that? You'd think it would be under network, right? It may be under file services. Yeah. So that's SMB. That's the way we're going to communicate on Windows with Samba. The workgroup is the name of the workgroup. You may not see it if you're under a different workgroup name. You would know because you would have changed it. If you left it alone, then yours should say workgroup. So blame yourself for that. This is instruction on how you want to access it manually, at the command prompt. And then under advanced settings, we can make sure that, for example, we can turn on SMB3 multi-channel. So we've got SMB3, SMB2, the range. What was it not giving us SMB3 multi-channel here? I might be mistaken. Interesting. Okay. Then if you've got Mac OS, etc. But if you wanted to make sure that you wanted to be able to see the NAS appear when you browse your network, you want to make sure that WS Discovery is turned on. And I thought that was over here, but I'm looking for 2 different things. One thing I'm looking for is the SMB3 multi-channel option, which is usually under the advanced settings of SMB. So if I cancel that and go back, right here, this advanced settings under SMB, this tab here. And WS Discovery may be under advanced. This advanced down here is not the same as this advanced up here. What we're looking for is the local network drives can use Windows Network Discovery to access the web interface of DSM. We want to make sure that box has a check in it for SSDP. Okay? Don't worry about whatever. You can Google it if you want to learn more about it. Turn that box on. It'll probably start appearing when you browse your network. You'll start seeing it. But if you turn that off, you're not going to see it. And I'm wondering if the SMB3 multi-channel is not an option because of the 10 gig card. That's normally located under SMB, excuse me, and then it's usually right under here. So what I'm curious about, if we close everything down, let's go back to the control panel, back under network. Network interface. We can edit IP4, IP6 information. I normally don't like using IP6, so I'm glad it's off by default. But what I'm curious about is, what if I unplug from LAN 3 and go back to the built-in 2.5 gig? So I'm unplugging the network cable now. Give that a second to be reassigned an IP address. I'll go up here and type find.synology. Let's see if it's already happened. Yep. Well, no, it still has the old one. Let's try it. It's probably not going to respond. Yeah. So it takes a minute, and I'm being impatient. See, it's still coming up at 6.1. Let's refresh it. Force it to look. Wow. That should not be taking that long. Sure, that's going to just lead us nowhere, because that's the IP address assigned to the 10 gig card. I'm sure it's going to time out. Yeah, let me go back. I'm just being impatient. It does take a minute to renegotiate with the router. To just pull the cable and move it like that is not a normal thing people do. And worst case, I may need to restart the Synology. Yeah, that's just not... Oh, I don't have the cable plugged in all the way. Let's try it again. You know me, I'm a little too gentle with cables. So now it should be negotiating with the router. It shouldn't take very long. Still not happening. We're still at 6.1. I would think that that would have given us a new IP address by now. That is weird. It's not switching us back. A lot of this you can do while the unit is on. That's the benefit of a NAS. It's really meant for like a business where you can't just keep rebooting things all day. It's interrupting multiple people, not just one person rebooting a computer. When you have to reboot the NAS, you're basically taking everybody in the office down momentarily. So the fact that that's not accessing is because that IP address is still tied to that 10 gig card that we're no longer plugged into. So the last thing I would do is shut it off and turn it back on. I'm sure that'll do it, but I wish this would just update. It's just not updating. So for that reason, what I'm going to do, we're going to come back over here to camera 1. Let me go full screen. And let's hold the button in, the power button. Let it go. See, it's blinking. It's about 4 or 5 seconds. I think if you wait till the first beep, you're okay. But if you wait till the whole thing shuts off, you've held it in too long. But when you let go of the button, you'll know if you've held it long enough because it'll be flashing. You just can't see it through your finger. It's about 4 or 5 seconds. Don't hold it in longer than that. Otherwise, you will force an abrupt power cutoff, which is the same as unplugging it from the wall unexpectedly while it's on. It's not going to be happy about it. If you have to, you don't have a choice, I get it. But if you do have a choice, don't do that. All right, we wait for everything to stop, and then we'll fire it up one more time. This time when it reinitializes, it should get its IP address from the other 2.5 gig. And then I'm thinking when I go back into the network settings, SMB3 multi-channel should be an option, but I guess not with the 10 gig card. So you should be able to pair the two 2.5s together. I thought, there's no reason I can think of why you couldn't just SMB3 multi-channel all 3 cards, but apparently that's not implemented for some reason, or I'm doing something wrong. But it's really very easy, so I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. It just may be sort of a sacrifice to the 10 gig card. But again, technically, I think they can all work together. Regardless, they can all still work together, by the way. That's why they're still available in the control panel. It's just that you might want them on different networks and other ways of load balancing. So I'm specifically referring to a specific config where all 3 are used together as one called SMB3 multi-channel. So we'll give that a second to boot. It should beep here in just a moment, and then when it does, we'll do the find again, and hopefully we'll see a different IP address for this. Sign back in, go over to the network side, see if that's it like I think it is. Pay attention to the lights, because a lot of times, there's the beep. A lot of times you don't need to log in to know what's going on if you pay attention to the lights. Okay, so back over to our window capture. We'll refresh the find.synology.com. Let it search our network. 1825, yes, now it's at the old IP address that it had before. I suppose I could have just tried that, couldn't I? We'll sign back in. We'll go to control panel. We'll go to network, network interface. So this is where we're connected, 2.5 gig. Great. We go to file services, SMB, advanced settings. Is it here? Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Enable SMB3 multi-channel. Was it there the whole time? When you enable SMB3 multi-channel, the system automatically enables asynchronous reads. Do you want to continue? Yes. So even if you're not using it, you could turn that on. It shouldn't hurt you. This enables may affect system performance. Enable us following simultaneously enabled link aggregation. Yeah, you don't want to do that. That pick one or the other. SMBs will restart when these settings are applied. Okay, yeah, you sure you want to continue? I'm sure. Okay, perfect. Perfect. That's what I was looking for the whole time. Now, if we go back to the network interface, I think all 3 of these are tied together, if I'm not mistaken. So one more time, I'm going to unplug the network cable, and this time I'm going to plug it into LAN 3. Let me make sure I plug the cable all the way in, and we're going to give that a minute to get an IP address, which I'm going to assume is going to go back to the 6.1, because I don't know how long it takes for the cache to clear. Yeah, look at that. That was pretty fast. And we'll log back in. That all about. Bada boom, bada bing. Back over to control panel. Back over to network. Network interface. Connected at 10 gig. And we can connect these 2 up as well. They should all work together and give us, 15 gigabit internet connection, in theory, at least in data transfer speeds, to multiple computers simultaneously to the maximum those computers can transfer data without slowing down anybody else. That's the theory behind it. How it works for you, just so you know, it's all built in and part of the price. You're not paying anything extra. You don't need any special hardware other than having network switches that can handle that kind of, 10 gig or 5 gig, 2.5 gig or 1 gig. That'll be your limiter, right? Not the unit itself. And then by enabling all three, that's just giving you all this many more lanes of traffic. It's not that the traffic's moving any faster. The cars are still doing 70 miles an hour, but instead of one lane of cars going 70 miles an hour, we have 4 lanes of cars or 3 lanes of cars. Therefore, it's improving the flow of traffic without impeding other drivers, because one person's driving slow, they slow down everyone behind them. So what do? You get in the next lane over. Think of these as, put a letter E on lane 1, it becomes lane 1, lane 2, lane 3. Lane 1 and 2 have a maximum 2,500 miles an hour. In lane 3, when connected properly to a proper switch, has a maximum speed of 10,000 miles an hour. You want to put this into an analogy. So it's pretty extreme performance numbers on this that can handle multiple people beating on it simultaneously, while other people that are beating on it don't even notice a difference. It's damn cool. So we want to make sure SMB3 is still turned on. I'll just go back to find that again under File Services, SMB, Advanced Settings, and then Others. That was the piece I was missing. Yeah, Enable SMB3 multi-channel does exist. I just wasn't finding it before. So getting yourself familiar with the menus is worthwhile if you're going to be working with it a lot. One of the things I like about sticking with Synology is I'm already pretty familiar. I don't have it memorized, obviously, but pretty familiar. It'll be interesting to see how the NVMe caching works for us. I don't think the way that we use NAS that we are going to notice it, but I might be in for a surprise because I'm speculating based on my understanding of how it works. But to actually put it into practice may result in a completely different experience than what I'm expecting. So there's our expectations and there's reality. And if we never give reality a chance, we might falsely conclude that our expectations are accurate. But how do you know? You just make the assumption and go, I don't need it? Well, suppose if you never had it, you don't know what you're missing. So I don't think I'm going to notice it. But ask me in a few weeks after we've had this deployed, and I'll let you know if I've been wrong. Because for all I know, maybe my definition of small files being cached are actually quite large files being cached. And maybe my file transfers are much faster, or maybe it's the way I think it's going to be and I'm not going to notice it. My video files are massive. But there's also a lot of cache. We'll find out. You know, our friends over at Synology, they've been so nice to us. I've got to tell you, I wish we could work with every company as openly and transparently as Synology works with us. When you ask me, you know, we have all these NASs on the market, and I love seeing competition. I think it's great. And we see some early entries from Ugreen and Mazeform and Orico. They're not quite ready for prime time. But good for them, you've got to start somewhere. And we're going to keep an eye on them. And we're going to keep an eye on Synology and see what they decide to do with this hard drive compatibility stuff. And until Synology, well, regardless of what Synology does, we still have the freedom to just throw the patch on and be done with it. So what we're going to do in a follow-up video, maybe Sunday, I'm not sure yet, is we're going to take the 1525, the 925, we'll just set them here on the table. These are all the 25 series Synologies, not all of them, but the ones we have. We're going to take the 5 drives that we have in the 1525, and we're going to put them in here. We're going to leave the other 3 bays empty. We're going to do a live migration with the Seagate Ironwolves. It's going to take like 2 minutes. It's going to, when we turn this on, it sees those new drives. It's going to say, it looks like you're migrating from a 1525. Do you want to completely reset up everything and start from scratch, or do you want to carry everything over? We want to carry everything over. We've got 40 terabytes of data on it. Don't want to lose it. It says, okay, migrate now. Takes like 2 minutes. It's going to come up, it's going to say the drives you've got in here are not on the drive compatibility list. I copy and paste a script in the task scheduler and click run. We're done. Done. Synology just released update 4 to the DSM, this already has it, but the other unit had to get updated today. Hard drives remained compatible. We did not have to repatch it. Just so you know, just giving you the follow-ups. Everybody thinks there's going to be consequences. There's no consequences. There isn't. So we're going to prove it. You know, we'll put our money where our mouth is. Once that gets done, then what I've got a spare 20 terabyte Iron Wolf that'll go in slot 6, and I'm going to say expand my array. When I put that Seagate 20 terabyte Iron Wolf in, it's going to say this drive is not compatible. See, it's doing it for each drive custom. So I have the task script already saved. I just hit run in the task scheduler. It says, okay, you're good. Expand my array. Okay. And then we'll do that. It'll take about 3 or 4 days for that to expand the array. And we'll do that again on drive 7, one drive at a time. And then we'll do that on drive 8. And it may be possible for me to do multiple drives at the same time. I just want to do one at a time. I want to take it nice and easy because I don't want to lose all my stuff. Right? I got a long history of YouTube videos on there. And, you know, I could live without it, but I sure would like to keep it. So I'm doing this on a tightrope. But that's how confident I am in this system. And, you know, I've got a QNAP over there. I've got minis for them. I've got a Rico. I've got a ASUS Store, TerraMaster. This is what I'm picking for myself. And this is what I have deployed at my customers. One customer has a QNAP. Actually, 2 customers, but one's not a customer anymore. Might have something to do with the story I told you earlier. But the QNAPs have never had a problem either. But those are the little NVMe ones that don't have a lot of storage because the NVMe drives are, I think there's 4 terabyte drives. You lose one in the RAID 5, so they're 12 terabytes total. Each one of these drives that we're going to put into it will be 20. And when you consider the cost, the QNAP was like $600. And then each of the 4 terabyte drives were $250. So you've got $1,000 in drives and $600 in the NAS. It's a little tiny NAS, you know, it's smaller, but it's nowhere near the capacity capability. It's not going to be 10 gig. And it works great, don't get me wrong, but I don't use that myself. This is what I use. So you take that for whatever it's worth. Let me go back over to the chat room. Yes. Are you here to kick me?
I might.
Is this going to be enough power for you?
Can I come over?
Yeah, come take a look. I've got it undressed right now. Don't embarrass it.
It's kind of naked.
Don't.
It's kind of naked.
Don't NAS shame it.
Don't NAS shame it. Ah, that's beautiful. So, folks, I'm going to offer my opinion. Synology has been great. Like, everything about it has been wonderful.
We're not getting paid for this.
We're not getting paid for this. The setup, the drives, how it works, the DSM, it's super easy. It's super logical. It's very intuitive.
They've seen it live in real time.
Yeah. Well, but and we use it. We use it daily. We love this thing. We love pretty much anything that has to be. So
we always have.
Yeah, and we always have. And again, we're not being paid for this. It's not a commercial.
And we aren't happy about the drive compatibility. We don't like it. We don't agree with it.
Right.
But it's so easy to work around it.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And we just need to give Synology, give them time, and hopefully they will reverse course on this, or at the very least, get back to the same drive compatibility the previous, 2024 and 2023 series models that aren't this different, in hardware. I'm not quite sure what they're thinking over there, but it's nothing you have to abide by. You don't work for them. We don't work for them.
Right.
And you have options. That's all I'm saying.
You have options.
With Synology that everybody else mostly isn't telling you about, and I don't know why. And yeah.
Now, those last couple that we have been playing with were interesting and were fun.
We got the Minis Forum, Orico, and the U-Green. The U-Green is closest.
I'm not a big fan of the U-Green. The Minis Forum
Some
was
silliness to
neat,
it.
but I hate to call it a NAS. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But the Orico was fun. It's very brand new, and there's a lot of just getting out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm actually surprised Orico's selling that. Like, to me, it's not ready for sale yet.
Yeah, well.
But if you like to be first and you don't mind sort of playing around with it,
Yeah.
it's fun. And
It is fun.
it's usable, but it's not as usable as it will be once they get the software polished up.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how this lid goes back on. It looks like we've got two little notches right here.
Hey, everybody. All right, we'll see you later.
And there's no other notches anywhere else. So I guess the first time I put it on, I did have it right. Thank you for your feedback.
You're welcome.
Do we have room on the desk for this? She's like, we'll get a bigger desk. Don't worry about it. The answer is always yes. I can't see what I'm doing. I know those little pegs, they line up into something. There we go. Now the seam is nice and tight. And these little screws can go back on. And again, any questions for me while I'm looking away doing this? There is a delay between when I talk and when you hear me, so this gives you an opportunity to ask away. See, I was concerned the way that kind of sticks out that there was a latch missing, but there's no latch. The screw is what's going to hold that in place. Maybe a suggestion for improvement is to put a little latch there so we don't have to manually hold that in. The rest of it lines up nicely. Look at that. Beautimus. Where's my... Oh, I see what I did. I left my window capture on. Why is it showing me the OBS screen? I was trying to show you the close-up. There we go. All these lights blinking over here, this tells me that that drive optimization has taken place. So I don't need to log in. I can if I want to, to see how much progress is left or done. But when these lights all go solid, I'll know it's done. That's why it's important to have the lights. If you know what the lights mean, you often don't need to log into this, at least for serious issues, or to determine if it's in use. If this is just sitting idle, the lights will just be unsteady. But if it's busy working, each drive that's working will blink in activity. Andy wants to know, where is the script? So we've already done a video on this, and if we go over here to let's do this. Let's go to YouTube. And in our YouTube search, we'll type in CareyHolzman space Synology on YouTube search. Enter. And if I share the screen with you here, our search results clearly state the very first result explains everything in your question in a 55-minute video, just so you know all of the different scenarios in which this applies. Okay? So if you're interested, please watch this video right here. Hey, this looks like a good video. Geez, we've only had that 1525 3 weeks and we're going to retire it. You know, we've only had that 3 weeks.
Like what?
The 1525.
Oh, I know. I'm aware.
Seems like we've had it a little longer.
Because they all work beautifully.
Yeah. No, I mean, it fit right in. Like
You got mail.
You've got mail. All right, let me jump back over to the chat real quick.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, it's from Mark. I see. Billy Man said, other than its end of life, his Synology 1812, remember, 12 is the year it came out, 2012. It's never had a problem. I set it and forget about it. That's why I want another one. That's exactly our logic, too. You definitely, I don't know what that cost you in 2012 or 2013 when you bought it, but I'll bet you'll say it was worth every penny 13 years later without a problem. Let me check email here real quick. Oh, there it is. Mark Gaines with a very generous PayPal contribution. Well, thank you so much. Mark, joining us from Northern Ireland, said here's a few dollars for the channel. Well, thank you so much, Mark. Cheers. I really appreciate that. And yeah, all the funds, whether it's an Amazon gift card, your memberships, it all gets funneled back into the channel so we can do projects, well, like the new streamer, which I have the cable to hook up the screen. I haven't done it yet. With regards to this, we thank, again, Synology for sending this to us with no restrictions. We're free to tell you our opinion, both good and bad. They're okay with it, clearly, because this is now the third one they've sent us. And each one they send us is more impressive than the one before it. I see why this is, $1,200. I get it. This is, I don't have a client, by the way, that would need 8 bays. That's insane. But it's nice to know that that's quite affordable when you consider how much the drives are going to cost you. I'll be interested to see what it's like to live with an SM, I keep wanting to say SMB. I'll be curious to see what it's like with the NVMe cache, because I've never used a NAS with that setup before. I really do believe it will not benefit me. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'll report back and let you know. Our friends over at SCD Keys, they're doing some upgrades to their site. So if you are interested in getting a Microsoft Windows or Microsoft Office license key, while their site is being worked on, by the way, this is their logo and everything, you're free to check the links and see if they're working again. But between now and then, when they do whatever upgrades they're doing, you can reach out to us personally and we can get the keys on your behalf, just so you know you're not out of luck. Just send us an email, let us know what you're looking for, and we'll help out in the interim. We support our friends at SCD Keys, and if we can, help them out during this upgrade period, we're more than happy to do that, where you guys don't have to be inconvenienced by the delay. Showcasecreate@gmail.com is how you'll reach us. We love to hear from you guys and your thoughts or concerns. Video ideas, if they're possible, if they align with the content style or genre that we follow here, we certainly welcome those suggestions. And of course, just to hear from you, if you want to say hello, that's how you can reach us. We're very transparent. We're very open here. The door's open. Just be nice. That's all. Thanks for our super chats today. Our good friend Buster, of course, with an Amazon gift card earlier. And if I go back over here to my viewer activity, a shout out to Thomas MacT and Buster, who renewed their memberships today. Also, Matthew Burden renewed his membership today. Thank you to Gregory Howard for your earlier super chat, along with Jose Lopez and Craig Casabona, and Peter VZ and Paul Vircher. You guys are amazing, and we can't thank you enough for your support and your generosity that helps keep us going without being beholden to any corporations that are trying to control what we're allowed to say or not say, or that we have to show them content before we can show it to you. We don't play that. Most, not all, most other YouTube channels make money by making these commercials. We don't want to make commercials. We would not call this video a review if we were making a commercial. We would not call this video a review if we were getting paid by the manufacturer to review it. That's not what a review is. Even if we go out and buy the equipment ourselves, which is possible through your support, we are definitely not getting paid to make the content from the manufacturer or being controlled in any way what we're allowed to say. These are our opinions. You don't even have to agree with them. We're trying to virtualize a real life, genuine, unedited experience and how much time it takes, plus my sort of, putting on camera, me figuring out things that I'm not certain of, finding a certain menu item. That's all genuine. That's all how it happens. Other channels want to edit all that out. They hide all of that from you. And oddly enough, a lot of people prefer that. They like to see real life hidden. The problem is when they try and attempt what they see on camera, it doesn't go the way they see it because so much was omitted. They don't know what was omitted until they try and do it themselves. That's why we do it this way. If you follow along with me click by click, you'll get exactly the same results we show. That's what I'm going after. Of course, those videos take longer because it's life. You could take somebody's life, take one picture of them every year from the day of birth until the day they die, and you'll have a 6-minute video of somebody's, 90 or 100 years of life. That's not realistic. It might be entertaining for you, since you're not the one who's, aging 100 years in 10 minutes or 6 minutes, whatever it is. But it's not realistic. It's not the way time works. So we do try to keep everything as genuine and as authentic and as transparent as we possibly can. And that's why I say if I've left you with any questions, I didn't do so on purpose. Ask. Leave it in the comments, email us, and we'll do what we can to get you an answer. All right? We love hearing from you. We can't thank our members enough. Without our members, these videos would not exist. We would not have those Seagate Iron Wolves that we're going to put in here that are $300 a piece. Because Seagate, they don't even know my name. They certainly don't sponsor us. Nor does any hard drive company, nor have they ever. We are independent because of you. Thank you. Unfortunately, the viewers who don't contribute, still many viewers think their view has value, like from advertising. It used to. The value it has now is almost nothing. Unfortunately, it does technically have value, but it's so little, it's microscopic. So the support is so important. But for those who can't or won't support for any reason, we're happy to have you view. We're not really making any money from the views, just so you know. If we had to rely on that, we'd maybe make one video a month and we'd be out of money. So that's just how it is right now on YouTube, and it's ask any content creator. So the answer to that is you go and you get sponsorships, you get companies to pay you to make commercials. But we're not doing that here. So just so you know, we're a little different that way. I'm sure we're not alone, but we're definitely rare on this platform because financially it's got to get paid for somehow. So that's the struggle I have. In the meantime, it's Friday, man. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday night. I think we're back on Sunday to follow this up with actually getting it ready to deploy for real use every day, 24/7 use here in Studio C, and we can tell you what it's like to live with it. And so we'll get the 1525 and the 925 all side by side because we have them, and to show you the differences between them, the cost between them, processing power between them, expansion availability between them, so that you have all the information to make the right decision for you. Nobody else can make that decision. With that, thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to Mara for all the thumbnails and video descriptions. She puts together all the links, and she answers all the emails. So reach out, say hello. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks to Synology for sending us the 10 gig upgrade card, the NVMe drives, and the unit, and the freedom and the trust to allow us to truly and honestly evaluate this in real time. Very few companies allow this. Something to think about. In the meantime, that'll wrap it up, and we'll see you all on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Until then, bye for now.